Historic milestones have been achieved this weekend in San Diego and New York. Now one of the game's most revered venues may see history tonight. From Wrigley Field, Tom Glavine of the Mets looks to become a 300-game winner. Reliable as a rugged watch. Steady as he goes. Smart, a step ahead without explosive stuff. Just the right stuff to make every start and make it count. Now the number is 299 and counting. A major milestone awaits. A place in baseball history reserved for the all-time greats that may never be reached again. A lefty with a lunch pail, an astute practitioner of the art, who has worked his way into the record books against the mega athletes of the modern game. Tom Glavine pitches for win number 300 as the Mets take on the Cubs at Wrigley Field next. It's ESPN's Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell. It is a very warm evening and an extraordinarily humid evening. It's tropical-like here at Wrigley, where the New York Mets atop the National League East take on the Chicago Cubs, who could be atop the Central Division with a win tonight. And as always, when you come to Wrigley, you check the flags in center, and as you can see, the wind is blowing straight out. That's good news if you're a hitter. Not such good news if you're a pitcher going for your 300th win. Hello, everyone. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan. Our partner, Peter Gammons, on vacation this week. He'll be back next week. Welcome to Sunday Night Baseball. Now, only 22 pitchers in the history of Major League Baseball have ever won 300 games in their careers. Tom Glavine can join that select company tonight. And what's more, in this era of the five-man rotation, relief specialists, big bruising home run hitters, it could be Joe. He would be the last one ever to do it.
Well, John, I played with a couple of 300-game winners. I played with Tom Seaver. I played with Nolan Ryan. I played with Steve Carlton. They were all power pitchers. Tom Glavine is completely different. In order to win 300 games, you have to have consistency and you have to have durability. Tom Glavine has both of those things. I mean, he throws strikes. He's been able to make all of his starts over the years, and he's had a good team behind him. I don't expect anyone to get to 300 very soon.
Well, he's got the first place Mets behind him here tonight, so that has not changed. Now he'll be facing hitters. Some have done real well against him, such as the slugging third baseman for the Cubs, Aramis Ramirez. He's hit 500 in the past against Glavine. Then there's Derek Lee, and right now, Joe, Derek Lee is hitting well against just about everybody.
Well, Derek Lee coming back is one of the reasons the Cubs are playing so well. But I think the real reason they're playing well, John, is they acquired players over the winter. Alfonso in left field, Ted Lilly, Mark DeRosa, and Jason Marquis. They brought in 4 new guys plus a manager, but these guys have all performed as well as they thought they would. At least 3 of them have. I think that's the key. And tonight, Jason Marquis will have a chance to perform well and pitch them back in the first place. But those guys are the reason the Cubs are in first place if they win tonight.
So Marquis getting ready for the first pitch of the game. And Glavine is also in the bullpen getting ready, and he'll be facing Alfonso Soriano as his first batter in the last of the first, with a chance tonight to put his name on that short list of the game's all-time greats. Included in that number is a man who not so long ago got his 300th win, Hall of Famer Phil Niekro.
He may be the last one that's going to do this. I don't know of anybody else that's going to win 300 games. There may be someone comes along, but he may be the last 300 game winner we're going to see.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun. And in part by Excedrin Back and Body. Its dual ingredient formula turns a double play on pain. Stay tuned for this week's Excedrin Back and Body Double Play Getaway Trivia Challenge. And DHL, delivering America's pastime on time.
There's Jose Reyes, the Mets leadoff man, getting ready to get things started here. Reyes, one of the most dynamic players in the game, and the premier leadoff man, Carlos Delgado, and in the background there with his arm in a sling after his rotator cuff surgery during the All-Star break, Willie Randolph in his 3rd season as the manager of the Mets. They won the division title last year and came within 1 game of going to the World Series. And they are atop the National League Eastern Division as we speak again this year. Let's take a look at the batting order for the New York Mets presented by Taco Bell. Jose Reyes leads it off. And those numbers are just part of the story. He's got 52 steals. Luis Castillo just acquired for the Minnesota Twins. Gold Glove caliber second baseman. David Wright, and he's been a hot lately. Third base. Carlos Delgado at first base, off to a terrible start this year, coming on lately. Moises Alou back from the disabled list in left field. Sean Green, veteran, in right field hitting 6. Paul Loduca said there's no way he could miss this game. He got a hamstring problem, but he's in there to catch Glavine. And Lastings Milledge, the rookie center fielder, hitting 8th, and Tom Glavine, the pitcher, bats 9th. A pretty good hitter too, as he goes for his 300th victory. And there is Reyes heading toward the plate as the throw has gone down to second base. Jason Marquis, 28-year-old right-hander from Staten Island, New York, and he's pitched pretty well, all things considered, for the Cubs, Joe, after having a terrible season with the Cardinals last year.
Well, Johnny got off to a great start. He's 3-5 in his last. He's only won 3 of his last 15 starts overall. But there you see the scouting report. He's at his best when he's mixing all his pitches up and throwing a lot of different speeds. But he gets in a rut sometimes when he starts to throw his sinker more than anything else. He'll get in a situation where he just stops using his other pitches.
Jose Reyes to try and get the Mets going against Jason Marquis. Both teams right in the thick of pennant races. The Mets trying to hold the line above both Atlanta and Philadelphia. Both of those teams won today. And Milwaukee atop the Central by a game at day's beginning, lost to the Phillies. So the Cubs can move back into first place by percentage points. There is the center fielder Pagan, and that's all for Reyes, 1 away.
And let's take a look at the defense. We know they brought in Jason Kendall and Tirio, only 3 errors and 209 chances at shortstop. They had Cesar Izturis here, but Tirio has won the starting job, and he plays. He's a fun-loving guy. You like to watch him play. He hustles. He's one of those guys that does all the little things to help you win a game.
So we'll get a look at him tonight. Here is Luis Castillo. Just a week or so ago, he was a Minnesota Twin. He bluffed the bunt, took the fastball a little bit low for ball 1. Ramirez came rushing in from third when he saw Castillo show bunt. He's only played 5 games so far for the Mets. Has had 4 hits. And Willie Randolph thinks maybe he was pressing a little bit early because of a new team, new teammates, trying to show him that he belonged on their pennant race juggernaut as he bunts one foul to count 1 ball and 1 strike. And I think he was kind of shocked to be traded by the Twins, and I know a lot of his teammates in Minnesota were shocked. Johan Santana, their great pitcher, came out and was very critical of the Twins management and ownership for trading away Castillo. That's along the left field line. That is a fair ball. Soriano, as it comes off the sidewall, it's a double for Castillo.
Well, Castillo's a guy that's, you know, he's been in pennant races all his career with the Minnesota Twins, so this is nothing new for him. Fastball on the outside corner, and it's a good piece of hitting here by Castillo. Leveled, and just slice it down the left field line for a base hit. And he puts himself in the scoring position. And as you mentioned, David Wright has been driving in runs at almost 1 run a game for the last 30 ball games, so he's swinging the bat well. Good timing to get a man in scoring position for David.
304 average, 19 homers, 67 batted in, and the fastball in there for a called strike. Now, Wright, when the season started, the first 5 weeks or so, there was just no power at all, no run production. He had 1 homer, 12 RBIs, and they had played over 30 games already, but he has turned that around big time. Right field. There is Cliff Floyd, the former Met, tagging up Castillo, and he'll head to third with 2 down. 2 down runner at third. And by the way, Joe, we had shown that the wind was blowing out just a few minutes ago, straight out. That wind has calmed down considerably. There's not much wind blowing at all right at the moment.
Well, this is a ballpark that you really do not need the wind to help you. Just do not want it to hurt you. Anytime it's not blowing in, this is a good hitter's ballpark.
So here is Carlos Delgado. So even with almost no wind blowing, not anything that's going to help out Tom Glavine in winning his 300th game. So here is Delgado. 251 average, 17 homers, 60 batted in. He also got up to a terrible start this year. Jason Marquis with 2 down and a runner at third. And they've got the shift on in the infield for the Cubs. And that one runs inside. A cutter or a slider. 1 ball and no strikes. Delgado is back into a home run funk here lately. He started looking like himself, only to have a power drought again. The last 15 games, just 1 home run. Ooh. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Well, Marquis challenges him with the high fastball, and Delgado just swings through it.
A ball and a strike. Moises Alou would be next. Now Delgado backs away. Tom Glavine all warmed up, set to go. And he wouldn't mind if they put a run or 2 on the board before he actually takes the hill. 2 down, runner at third. And he took a little something off that one, missed too low with it. 2-1.
Well, in Glavine's last start, he left with a 2-1 lead, and they could not hold the lead for him, but it was only a 2-1 lead, and they had to get 9 out, so it wasn't, in my opinion, a big blown situation where he was destined to win.
He pitched into the 7th inning and left after a leadoff single with that 2-1 lead. That's going to be back out of play. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Plus, the bullpen was asked to get 9 outs at Miller Park against the slugging Brewers. And they've got some thunder in that lineup.
A lot of times when a guy leads with a lead, we forget that they have to get 9 outs sometimes to save the victory for him.
Well, if they did forget that night, they remembered when the Brewers scored a run in that 8th inning. 2-2 the count. Inside with a cutter. 3-2. Jason Marquis grew up in New York, a Yankees fan, but also a guy who was just, as he said, a baseball fan. He watched guys like Maddox, Tom Glavine, John Smoltz, the great pitchers of the Braves. And then he ended up signing with the Braves and broke in with those guys in Atlanta. And that's a foul ball. And he said he used to pick their brain. He said it was like going to the library and getting reference books. Tom Glavine was one of those. He used to pick Glavine's brain. And now here he is trying to prevent his old teammate from getting his 300th win. 2 other pitchers still active have won more games than Glavine, including his teammate, his old teammate, Greg Maddox, and of course the Rocket, Roger Clemens. That's off the outside, and he walks him. So he goes to first, and the batter will be Moises Alou, the former Cub. Maddox has a flag here. He won his 300th game as a Cub, although he won it in San Francisco. He had a chance to win it here and was not able to do it. Here's the list of the most winning active surgery pitchers, as we see Randy Johnson, who was a guy with a real threat for 300 wins when the season started, but he's out for the year now with back surgery, and whether he'll be able to come back at all remains to be seen. Clemens, Maddox, Glavine, and then the big unit, and then Mike Messina. Check swing and a foul by Moises Alou. Moises Alou played, sorry, he played in the game where Maddox won his 300th game, hit a home run and made a diving catch in the outfield on behalf of Greg Maddox that day.
Well, I think he's the missing piece right now for the Mets. They're without Carlos Beltran, but I think Moises Alou is such a consistent hitter that when he's not in the lineup, it changes the whole lineup from what it was at the beginning of the season. He was swinging the bat so well and he's hitting over 300 as well now, even after sitting long stretch on the DL.
He wasn't hitting the long ball, but he was hitting well over 300.
Well, he hit 2 home runs in one game in the first 37, and he hit 2 home runs yesterday.
At the knees for a strike. 1 ball, 2 strikes now to Moises. Runners at first and third for the Mets. The Mets are without their all-star center fielder, Carlos Beltran. He's on the disabled list. Willie Randolph said they hope they're going to get him back on Wednesday. 1-2 the count. Low one outside. 2-2 now. Carlos Beltran, but not having a real big year this year, but he had a fabulous year last season. 41 homers, 116 batted in. He did have 62 RBIs, and he's an outstanding center fielder. They're eager to get him back. 2-2 the count. Struck him out. Two men left, no runs. And now Tom Glavine, with 299 career victories, heads out to the hill.
MLB at Home is presented by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. The Mets nothing, and the Cubs coming to bat now. And there is Alfonso Soriano, who will be leading it off against Tom Glavine. Let's take a look at the Cubs batting order turned in by Lou Piniella, presented by Taco Bell. Alfonso Soriano, the slugging leadoff man, 18 homers left field. Ryan Theriot at shortstop. Derek Lee, he started to hit with power now at first base. Aramis Ramirez, he's been the Cubs' big RBI man again this year. Cliff Floyd, former Met, with great numbers against Glavine, right field. Mark DeRosa, a former Brave, a good friend of Glavine, is at second. Angel Pagan in center field. Jason Kendall, the veteran catcher, hitting 8th. And Jason Marquis, the pitcher, batting 9th. All up against Tom Glavine, the 41-year-old lefty. And he's ready to go. Got 9 wins so far this year. And a little dribbler foul. And we have strike 1 to Soriano. You see Glavine's numbers: 9 wins, 6 losses, a 4.38 earned run average. Didn't get a whole lot of strikeouts. That's not a big part of his game. And too low with that fastball.
Although Glavine has changed a little bit over the years, he still likes to tail the ball away from the right-handed hitters and uses off-speed pitches change-up away. Now he's coming inside, looks like.
Center field, and caught by Lastings Millage. 1 away.
That's one of the reasons he doesn't like to pitch right-handers inside, because he doesn't have a great fastball to get inside on them. And one of the things he has done, he started throwing more curveballs, and he does come inside now more than he ever did, but he still tries to live on the outside corner.
Here's Ryan Theriot now. Theriot just won that everyday shortstop job. They had another young guy, Ronnie Cedeno, that played a lot of shortstop last year, plus Cesar Izturis. But finally, Theriot was just so good, they traded Izturis to the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Well, his hustle yesterday really accounted for the 6 runs that they scored yesterday. It was 2 outs, runner at third, and he was hustling. He was still out at first base, but his hustle made it a close play, and he got the call. And they scored 5 runs after that with 2 outs to win the ball game 6-2. So they scored all 6 of their runs with his hustle.
So if he hadn't been busting it down the line in the first place, it would have been an easy out. There is Millage again. So Glavine using the big part of the ballpark so far. 2 fly balls to center, 2 down, and now the slugger Derek Lee will come up. There's the Glavine family. That's his wife Chris with the Glavine children. They have 4 children. And there's his mom and dad. That's Mildred on the left and Fred on the right, from Billerica, Massachusetts. And Tom has his family here and a whole large entourage of people, including the former team doctor of the Atlanta Braves and a former trainer for the Braves, guys that he appreciated for their work with him and their help. As Lee takes the ball outside, so he flew them all and accommodated them all in Milwaukee last Tuesday, his first opportunity to win number 300, and now he has reassembled them all here in Chicago, and that's a little bit low. 2-1 the count. Tom Glavine, 2 Cy Young awards with the Braves. His wins are the 5th highest total by any left-hander in the history of Major League Baseball. Now it's 3-1 to Derek Lee. His dad Fred was a great fan of Warren Spahn, and Tom said that often he'd achieve something big, he'd win a Cy Young award. He says, well, you still got a long way to go to catch Spahny, and that's back to the screen. 3-2.
Well, Spahn ended up with 363 victories. And I always felt that as great as Warren Spahn was, he was really underrated as far as the greatest pitchers of all time. When you started talking about those guys, Koufax, Gibson, all these names come up, very rarely do you hear Warren Spahn's name mentioned.
3-2 pitch, and Lee fouls it off the fists back into the crowd.
So far in this ball game, Glavine has pitched the right-handed hitters inside more.
Still 3-2 now to Derek Lee. They're going outside this time. And Lee hooks it into left field. Alou, he's got it. A nice running catch as he got to the warning track. Ball hit well by Derek Lee, and all 3 of the hitters had good swings against Glavine, but the side retired in order. We head to the second. Sean Green coming up.
Thanks for sharing your DIY haircuts, your savage moves, and your adorable pets. Now it's our turn to share with the Geico Give Back, a 15% credit on car and motorcycle policies lasting your full policy term. So, thanks again.
Wrigley Field, Chicago. Cubs moved in here in 1916. Been their home ever since. They're playing the New York Mets. No score in the game. The Mets with Tom Glavine on the hill looking for his 300th win. No score as Jason Marquis throws ball 1 to Sean Green. Green, then Paul Lo Duca, and the rookie Lastings Milledge, the do-ups here for the Mets. And a foul off to the left.
Sean Green got off to a tremendous start, John, and then he had to go on disabled list, and he has not been able to pick it up from there. But he had a great start for the Mets.
First time he'd ever had to go on the disabled list. You see the difference there. Hitting only .238 since he came back in 65 games. Chased that high fastball. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Sean Green. He was hitting .355 and nearly as many RBIs in his first 24 games in April as he's had in 65 games since. The Mets, though, despite injury problems, certain guys with lack of production, atop the division. But unlike last year, Joe, they were a lone wolf in that division. They got a huge lead early on and were never challenged. As this day began, the Braves were 4.5 out, the Phillies 5 out, and both of those teams already have won. And the Mets are going to go home, and they got a head-to-head with the Atlanta Braves, and they have not done that well against Atlanta this year. At first base, Derek Lee, that came up a high hop. He stayed with it, and Marquis gets the put out, 1 away. Now our Excedrin trivia question. This is sort of a theme question, Joe, our theme of the night. Who is the only Major League Baseball pitcher in the last 100 years to throw a shutout for his 300th career victory? Was it the big train Walter Johnson? Was it Knucksy Phil Niekro? Was it the Ryan Express or Tom Terrific? We're going to give you the answer here momentarily. You can mull it over for a little bit.
Well, I know it wasn't Nolan Ryan or Tom Seaver.
Well, you're narrowing it down now.
Yeah.
That's a strike to Lo Duca.
I remember those 2 guys the day they won, so either one of them pitched a shutout.
So you think it's between either Walter Johnson or Phil Niekro?
Correct.
1 strike pitch. That's right in there for a strike to Lo Duca. Lo Duca nursing a bad right hamstring. He's sat out a few games and was not going to be in the lineup tonight, but he convinced his manager, Willie Randolph, that the hamstring was sufficiently healed that he could play. There is DeRosa, and that is out number 2. Loduca retired. 2 down. Let's go to the studio. Here's Steve Berthium with a SportsCenter 30 at 30 update. Thanks, Steve. And Joe, I'm the first to admit it. I know Kurt Busch is good, but I thought no way he could win at Pocono. So he proved me wrong. Showed me up. What a surprise for me.
Well, I wasn't surprised that Tiger Woods won.
So you're like everybody else. You're surprised if he doesn't win.
Correct.
And you're outraged. What's wrong with Tiger? 2-0 to Lastings Village. 2-1. Man, he opened up. It looked like he was trying to launch that one out into Waveland Avenue.
It really kind of shows you how good this lineup the Mets are putting out there is, because Millage has been playing very well since he returned to the big leagues, making great plays in the field and getting key hits. And he's hitting 8th.
He's got a .282 average in the big leagues overall. That includes some early season games where he didn't hit that well. Look at that, .375 in his last 12 games.
That's why I say I'm surprised that he's hitting so low in the order, but he is the rookie. Well, not rookie anymore, but he's the young guy.
Well, he's still pretty much a rookie.
Yeah.
And he takes a walk this time. So that gets Glavine to the plate. Tom Glavine looking for his 300th win. We asked the Excedrin trivia question: who is the only major league pitcher in the last 100 years to throw a shutout for his 300th career win? Not Seaver, not Ryan, not Walter Johnson either. It was Knucksy, Phil Niekro. He did it for the Yankees against the Blue Jays, October the 6th, 1985. Log on to ESPN.com, search Excedrin to answer additional trivia questions. As Millage goes, Kendall throws into center field, backed up by Angel Pagan, and Millage could not dig himself out of the dirt in time to go to third.
Now that's a really gutsy play there when you have the pitcher hitting with 2 outs and you take off. I mean, if he gets thrown out, that means the pitcher leads off the next inning.
You rarely see that.
No, you do not see it. But Tom Glavine is also a pretty good hitter, and that's one of the other things that he does well besides sacrifice. He has been able to drive in some runs.
He's not likely to drive in from first base, and I think he may drive him in. Let's see. Pagan rushing that ball, and he drops the ball. Millage is in to score. It is 1-0 Mets, and it is Tom Glavine who drives in the first run. That was going to be an interesting play to see if Millage is going to be able to make it, but Pagan in his haste dropped the ball.
I didn't think Millage got a great jump from second base because it was going to be a play. Here's the pitch right in the middle of the plate, and Glavine grounds it back through the middle. And remember, the center fielder has the longest throw to the plate if they're going to throw somebody out. But watch, you'll see that Millage is not, he doesn't get a great jump. And watch, he's just at third base when he comes up with the ball. I still think he was going to make it, but it's going to be close.
That's a base hit for Jose Reyes. Right through the middle, and Glavine will go to second. So 2-out action here, and Lastings Millage not only got the walk, he then stole the bag, and Glavine promptly brought him in. Glavine's third RBI of the year.
Well, you have to give Willie Randolph the credit there, because we haven't seen that often. Remember, we do not see an 8th place hitter try to steal with 2 outs and the pitcher at bat, because, as I said earlier, if he gets thrown out, you got the pitcher leading off the inning, and that's what the defense always wants, is a pitcher leading off an inning.
The other aspect of that makes it maybe even more surprising, that's the second stolen base for Lastings Millage in his major league career. He stole 1 in 3 tries last year, and that's his first in 3 tries this year. Kendall knocked the ball down, Glavine holding at second base. Millage has stolen as many as 23 bases in a minor league stop. In fact, 26 between 2 minor league stops 1 year, 3 years ago. So he runs pretty well, but he hasn't perfected the art of base stealing yet. Maybe that's part of why he was able to do it, Joe. They just didn't expect it to be gone.
Well, the other reason is Marquis takes a little longer to release the ball to the plate, and they figured, hey, let's go. But I still think that's a tough call to make if you're the manager.
Willie Randolph, who has shown us many times that he's not afraid to take a risk. Lastings Millage, that talent which he possesses, part of the reason he's still here. There was a lot of speculation he might be traded at the trading deadline for maybe some veteran pitching talent, another hitter maybe, but he's still here. 3-0 now to Castillo, who doubled down the left field line his first time. Millage has scored the first run of the game, and Marquis back to work looking for that elusive third out. Strike one. Millage walked, stole second. Glavine then promptly singled him home. That's 242 hits in Tom Glavine's career. I would have thought by now, Joe, at age 41, maybe he wouldn't be as good a hitter anymore. Still helping himself with the bat. Strike two. He got the high strike there. Castillo thought he had a walk. He wouldn't mind getting the walk. David Wright, powerful hitter, big RBI man, is on deck.
But it also will allow Glavine to get a running start here, 3-2, and be able to score on a base hit.
So Glavine with his lead from second. Reyes, who has extraordinary speed, at first. There they go. To shortstop, Terrio. And that's the inning. But the Cubs turn a walk, a steal, and a hit by the pitcher into a run. The Mets with the run, and now the Cubs trailing 1-0. Aramis Ramirez and Cliff Floyd coming up against Tom Glavine. Wrigley Field, Chicago. The Mets with a 1-0 lead back of Tom Glavine. Tom Glavine looking for his 300th career victory. Glavine was a great all-round athlete in high school in the Boston area for Bill Rickett, and he was also an outstanding hockey player. And he was later drafted by the Los Angeles Kings of the NHL, 1984 in the 4th round. The Braves drafted him in the 2nd round, and he signed with the Braves. And he won 242 games for them before he moved over to the Mets after playing out his contract in Atlanta. And now he's trying to win number 300 as a Met. And here he is to face Aramis Ramirez. And Ramirez has worn him out. Ramirez with a 500 lifetime batting average against Glavine. And that's down to David Ramirez with 3 home runs in those 22 at bats. So Glavine will be oh so careful here with Aramis Ramirez. The best average of anybody who's had a considerable number of at bats against Glavine. 2-1. That's sort of the prototype Glavine pitch right there.
Yeah, but he doesn't have a real pitch to handle Ramirez with. If you stay away from him, he will shoot the ball the other way or left center field.
Too low, 3-1.
And he doesn't throw hard enough to come inside that often on Ramirez, and that's probably why Ramirez is hitting so well. He stays back through the middle. He stays away from him, throws him a few off-speed pitches. He just goes back through the middle or the other way. He wasn't trying to go the other way then, though. He got a fastball and he tried to hammer it.
The wind carries it into center, and Castillo just does recover to get to it. And that is out number 1. Tom Glavine made his major league debut all the way back in 1987, and in his 2nd game, the first batter he faced was Barry Bonds of the Pirates, and he hit him. Barry Bonds came up the first time he and Glavine ever faced off 20 years ago, and he drilled him, Joe. And then to add insult to that injury, Bonds eventually got to second base, and Glavine picked him off. Got him in a rundown and threw him out at third. Here's Cliff Floyd, a former Met, a former Glavine teammate, who's a left-handed hitter who has hit well against Glavine. So he's in there. Floyd hitting .394 in 33 lifetime at bats, including a couple of homers. And the curveball is tapped foul. 1 ball, 1 strike.
And Glavine is not any tougher on left-handed hitters than he is on right-handed hitters. He stays away from the right-handed hitters, and left-handed hitters, he doesn't throw a curveball a lot. Left-handers are bothered by curveballs and balls that tail away, and neither one of those pitches are his bread and butter pitches. Fastball and changeups are his pitches.
He goes inside to Cliff Floyd, 2-1.
And he tries to move the ball in and out on the left-handers the same way he does on the right-handers. Left-handers that bother left-handers most are the ones that have good curveballs.
Well, Rick Peterson, the Mets pitching coach, worked with him for a while, worked with him just trying to convince him that he needed to change his style. And then they worked long and hard at doing it as Glavine sort of remade himself as a pitcher.
Well, he throws curveballs more now than he did before.
But he misses down and away, and he walks Cliff Floyd. And Glavine talked to us this weekend about the changes that he effected working with Rick Peterson.
Rick Peterson said to me 2.5 years ago or 2 years ago, you know, we got to wipe the slate clean on your scouting report and start over and write another one. You know, and for me, for so long, it was sinkers and changeups away to righties, occasionally throw a ball inside, and that was it. And everybody knew what I was trying to do, and I didn't care. I just tried to out-execute people, and it worked. But over time, you know, the game changes and you change, and you have to make adjustments. So for me, it's really been getting away from that and making it much more difficult for the hitter to get in the box and know exactly what it is I'm going to do.
Well, he didn't tell us what he does, but he told us that it has changed, and I think that's great. He doesn't want the hitters to have a scout report on him either.
So he told us he's doing it, he's just not telling us what it is specifically that he's doing.
But one of the reasons he had to adjust is because his fastball wasn't as lively as it was before, and that late movement wasn't there. It gave guys time to go out there and get the ball or lay off the pitch. They had a little more time to read it.
2-0 to Mark DeRosa, his former teammate. That's a foul into the crowd. And DeRosa not only is a former teammate of Glavine from their Atlanta days, but very good friends with Tom Glavine. They struck up a friendship then, and in the offseason, DeRosa lives in the same neighborhood as does Glavine. They play golf a lot. They got together on Friday in the weight room here at Wrigley Field, but they never discussed 300 wins. They only discussed golf. That's a strike, and DeRosa didn't think so. 2-2.
Let's take a look at K-Zone, and it's sponsored by Nationwide. And DeRosa has an argument there. That is clearly off the plate inside. That's farther off than the acceptable 2 inches.
Well, they're going back in there again now as LaDuca gives the inside target, and that one in too far. 3-2.
Well, one of the things you can do with DeRosa is send the runner. And I thought when they made all those moves this winter that DeRosa was the sleeper in the whole situation. And he has really done well for him, driven in 54 runs.
Floyd runs, and he just got a piece of it, fouling it. 3-2. DeRosa says it's easy for him in terms of Glavine going for his 300th win against the Cubs, that he doesn't want to see it. He'll do everything possible to prevent it. And he knows Glavine's going to get 300 down the road somewhere anyway. So he's not worried about that. Not worried about Glavine going to the Hall of Fame. But not at the Cubs' expense today. 3-2 the count. Floyd was running on the last pitch. He goes. Lastings Millage in right center. And Floyd will have to go back to first. 2 down. DeRosa retired.
You know, the reason I've always liked DeRosa is about 3 years ago I was talking to Bobby Cox, and he said DeRosa doesn't have a spot to play, Joe, but he can really hit. And I've always watched him since that time, and he's in Texas last year, obviously had a great year, and that's why the Cubs wanted him. And I think he is one of the really good hitters as infielders go.
He really blossomed in Texas, as you say.
Yeah. Well, Bobby Cox said if he had a chance to play, he could hit, but he just didn't have a place to play him when he was there in Atlanta.
And there's ball 1 to Angel Pagan, a switch hitter in center field for the Cubs here tonight. 273 average, 4 home runs. Pagan has had 139 at bats. The Cubs, they don't have a whole lot of power. They thought they had more than what's actually presented itself. And that's a ball up and away. They've hit 88 home runs in 109 games. Alfonso Soriano leads them with 18. Ramirez has 16. Derek Lee has 12.
But what's amazing to me is Jock Jones. He had 27 last year and he only has 2. That's amazing to me.
And Lou Piniella said, if you look it up, we don't have any left-handed hitter with more than 4 home runs. 2-2 now.
And again, this ballpark, if the wind's not blowing in, it's a good hitter's ballpark. I mean, it's good. It's not easy, but the ball carries well, and you can hit line drives out of here. You don't even have to elevate it sometimes.
2-1 the count, and a foul that will go out of play off to the right. Well, they thought Soriano coming to this ballpark after he hit more than 40 home runs in Washington, which is a huge ballpark, RFK Stadium. So they thought they could pencil him in for 40-something home runs.
Well, he still may, John. I mean, he got hot last year. You know, home run hitters are like that. They're streaky.
Pagan rolls one to Castillo. Castillo, who almost never makes an error. He has the all-time record for second baseman. Errorless consecutive games. 1-0 Mets. Wright, Delgado, and Alou. The power coming up.
And he's dancing with the big finish. It's a happy camper. Foul ball in a big league game. Life is good. Contreras, a young fan, a souvenir.
Standing side by side with a big leaguer. What a thrill, huh? My goodness.
You never know what you're going to see when you come to the ball.
High definition, and this is our 2000th telecast tonight. A milestone, ESPN, which has been a real pioneer in bringing home definition into your, or high definition into your homes. And tonight, telecast number 2000. The first one was right here on Sunday Night Baseball. Jason Marquis back to work. The big hitters are up for the Mets, starting with David Wright. And that one is caught by Cliff Floyd. One away. Every year, ESPN making more and more of a commitment to presenting high definition programming and ball games in high definition. We had 87 that first year, more than doubled it in 2004, and then more than doubled it again in 2005, and it just has incrementally grown. We'll have more than 800 by the time this calendar year is over with. There's a ball inside.
And there's nothing like watching a sporting event in HD. It kind of puts you right there.
Once you see it in high definition, you don't want to watch anything else. Delgado, cutter. Did he swing? No, says third base umpire Tim McClellan. 2-0. Talk about high definition. Wow. Now that's high definition. 2-0 the count. The definition of high definition. Here's to the second baseman DeRosa. He was about 40 feet into the outfield. He had to come rushing back into the infield, and he throws out Delgado. And the struggles continue for Delgado. He walked his first time, now grounds out. 2 down, nobody on, and Moises Alou coming up.
Well, he had a big hit on Friday to break a 3-3 tie in the 9th inning against Dempster.
They put 4 on the board in the 9th against Dempster to break a tie and win that ball game. Delgado had 38 homers and 114 RBIs last year. That with the big year by Beltran, who had 41 homers, 116 batted in. What a great 1-2 punch they were. Well, plus David Wright, Jose Reyes and company.
Well, Delgado, remember he had the surgery over the winter over his wrist, and it hasn't completely healed to his satisfaction. At least he tells me he's okay, but that's one of the reasons you don't expect him. You didn't expect him to hit 38 home runs this year, and he has had a direct bearing on Beltran. Beltran was hitting in front of him last year, and I really believe that Delgado made it easier for him last year.
He's been pretty steady over the years, 30+ home runs year after year. Alou to center field, right to Pagan. So an impressive inning for Marquis against 3 of the Mets' top hitters. 1-0 Mets. Jason Kendall coming up. Now the Cubs in the last of the third against Tom Glavine. Glavine drove in the only run of the game with a single. He's got a 1-0 lead as he faces Jason Kendall and throws him a called strike. Jason Marquis, the Cubs pitcher, on deck, and then Alfonso Soriano due up third in the inning. Cubs, of course, traded Michael Barrett away to the San Diego Padres, and this was a while after the bad blood in the dugout between Carlos Zambrano, their star pitcher, and his battery mate Barrett, which ended up being a more fisticuffs back in the clubhouse. There's Zambrano, but it seems that a lot of things started going well for the Cubs after that fight. David Wright, nice pickup, and he throws out Kendall.
It's great to see Wright make plays like that because he has worked so hard on his defense. His first year, he struggled over there at third base. He could make great plays, but he couldn't make the routine play. Now you see a guy that has become an accomplished third baseman. I mean, he really works hard at his craft, and it's good to see it pay off for him. And that's an excellent play, and then he gets up, takes his time, and fires a strike to first.
Here's Jason Marquis, and that's called a strike. Marquis is an excellent hitter.
Well, he was. He's struggling a little bit now, but they used to use him for a pinch hitter. But I agree that he has potential.
He's only hitting 167 this year. 1 home run, 2 doubles, 4 runs batted in.
But he has been used as a pinch hitter on occasion, especially when he was in St. Louis. But then again, Tony La Russa used a lot of pitchers to pinch hit.
Well, he used the pitcher to bat 8.
Yeah.
Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
In Washington? And Adam Kennedy bat 9. Marquis hitting over 300 for 2 years, but the last 2 years.
Well, they pitch him differently now.
They pitch him like a hitter.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's a foul ball.
Normally when a pitcher walks up there, the other pitcher thinks he has a breather, and he goes right after him. But now, you know, that his reputation precedes him, they know that he can hit. Now they pitch him just like they do another hitter in the lineup.
Today, by the way, Adam Wainwright of the Cubs batted 8. That's fouled back to the screen. And of the Cardinals, Adam Wainwright, La Russa batted him 8th today. And Aaron Miles hit 9th, and Wainwright hit a home run today. Although the Cardinals lost. The Cardinals have lost 5 in a row. 1-2 the count. Glavine curves him, and Marquis got a piece of that one.
Well, you can see that he's a pretty good hitter because he fights it off. I mean, that was nice curveball and off-speed pitch to Marquis, and he went out and fouled it off.
So he's battling it. Carlos Zambrano, he's still hitting well. 281 batting average this year. And that's off the outside. 2 balls and 2 strikes to count now to Jason Marquis. He's battling Tom Glavine, making him throw a lot of pitches here. 1 out, nobody on in the third. Glavine and the Mets lead 1-0. And it's 3-2. That's the 8th pitch of this battle. So he's going to get a strike right here.
Well, he is. I take that back, John. He is still a good hitter. He's just not having good luck.
Wait a minute. I thought he was no longer a good hitter.
Well, but he fought this. This at bat has proven that he's a good hitter.
So maybe he's found himself again.
Well, you know, a lot of times you're hitting tough luck too. He may have hit a lot of line drives at people.
Maybe he's been working with Carlos Zambrano.
Yeah.
Because Zambrano, you know, that's people talking about where he might sign next year if the Cubs don't re-sign him. It's hard to imagine he'd sign to the American League where he wouldn't hit. He loves hitting. There's Moises Alou. So Glavine wins the duel, but he had to throw 10 pitches to do it. 2 down. Sunday Night Baseball from Wrigley Field, Chicago. It's a warm, extremely humid night, and Tom Glavine trying to win his 300th career game. Only 22 pitchers have ever done it. 11 of those pitched before 1925. And several of those were pitched in the 19th century when the game was much different. There's his wife, Chris. His 4 children are here: Amber, Jonathan, Peyton, and Mason. Here's Alfonso Soriano, and a strike caught on the inside with a fastball. Soriano lined out to center his first time. His mom and dad, Fred and Mildred, are here. We've got brothers, a sister. We've got 30 people all told for whom he has secured tickets and hotel accommodations and flights. There's mom and dad. That's Mildred on the left, Fred on the right, his wife Christine. Back to the screen. 1-2 the count to Soriano. Glavine. Of course, you have to keep a close eye on the pitch count with Glavine these days, Joe, at age 41. He's thrown 53 pitches already. So Jason Marquis at bat, although he made an out, takes a toll on Glavine in terms of how long he might be in this game. And that's a base hit for Soriano.
Good job of hitting there by Soriano. It was a changeup away. Let's take a look at the nationwide K's on. You see the target outside and the pitch is out there, but he goes out and gets it and rips it into left field for a base hit. Changeup away. Good hitting by Soriano. He keeps his head right there. Look at his head. His head does not move. That was the key right there to staying on that ball that's away from you. Just keep your eyes planted right there and let your hands do the rest.
Here's Ryan Terrio. I'm looking for the steal right here, Joe. It's a ball down on the way to Terrio. And Soriano became a 40-40 man last year that has 18 steals this year. Terrio flied out to center his first time. Now what about Glavine, though? Is he tough to get a jump against? Pass Glavine up the middle, base hit. Soriano's going to go to third. Here's Milledge's throw, and Soriano's hurt. Soriano pulled up lame halfway to third, and he is thrown out by Milledge. And they are.
That's 3 outs, and nobody seems to know it.
They are shocked into silence to see their all-star left fielder pull up lame all of a sudden. The inning is over. Terrio's single, and halfway to third, he was not able to continue running, and now they help him off the field. And the Cubs fans, those long-suffering Cubs fans, are shocked and now very concerned.
You see Rounds second, and there it is right there. His right leg. And I'll tell you, he warmed up very well before the ball game, because I was sitting up here watching him, and he was loosening up, running in the outfield. He did everything you're supposed to do to get ready to play. He went and took batting practice late, and then he went out and hit in the cage, and then he went out and ran. He did some sprints before the game. And one problem you have, when you play in humid weather is that you sweat a lot and you lose a lot of water. And you have to make sure that you always replace it. And these guys know that, so I'm not exactly sure what happened, but I do know he warmed up very well before the ball game because I was watching him.
Well, hopefully it's something related to that.
Well, it could
cramp.
be a cramp,
yeah.
more than a hamstring pull or more than a pull.
So he is going to be removed from the game. Cliff Floyd is going to go out to left field. And it looks like Mark DeRosa is going to move to right field, and Mike Fontenot is going to take over at second base now. So DeRosa shows his flexibility. So Floyd from right field over to left, and now DeRosa heads out to right from second base, and Fontenot is the new second baseman. There's Mike Fontenot. Now tomorrow night we have a baseball doubleheader on ESPN. Beginning at 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 Central. The San Diego Padres will take on the St. Louis Cardinals tomorrow at 7 Eastern. Then at 10 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2, Barry Bonds and the Giants will host those Washington Nationals, who are hot. They've won 6 in a row. The Nationals and the Giants, John Lannon, a rookie with very little experience, will be up against Bonds. Bonds, who had the day off today, did not appear in the game at San Diego for the Giants. And with one more homer, he will have hit more home runs than anybody in Major League history. Right now, tied with Henry Aaron, the home run king, at the top of the list. John Lannon will make his third Major League start against Bonds and the Giants. That's tomorrow night on ESPN2, starting at 10 o'clock Eastern time. So here is Marquis, and the ball fouled by Sean Green.
Well, I was watching last night, John, when Barry tied Hank Aaron. And you can see he's excited, and the commissioner was there.
The commissioner did not look that excited.
Not as excited as I was and the fans were. I read a good article today by Phil Rogers in the Tribune, and he was there, and he said there were more cheers than boos last night when that happened.
1-1 the count, and the ball down and in to Sean Green.
And we know yesterday Alex Rodriguez also got his 500th home run, and now Glavine trying to join that elite club of the 300 club, 300 win club.
So
it's amazing, John, and we've seen these guys get close. It took Bonds and Rodriguez a little more time to reach their milestone, and maybe this is Glavine's second attempt.
2-2 the count. Sean Green hits it off his right foot.
But I think one of the things that happens, John, is when you start to get close to a milestone like that, you think about this. Alex Rodriguez, once he hits the 500th home run, he's no longer just a great player. He's a member of the exclusive 500 home run club, so he's no longer that. He's just a great player with that number. Glavine, when he gets 300, he's no longer just a great pitcher. He's a member of the 300 win club, and that's an elite group.
And it's getting more elite all the time. Derek Lee, a Gold Glove first baseman, throws out Sean Green with Marquis covering, and that's one away.
And we know what Barry is chasing. He's not only chasing a number, he's chasing a man. He was chasing Hank Aaron, so that was even, in my opinion, a tougher thing to do.
Chasing the king.
Yeah, the king. So that's a little different. And there you see the difference. And we were talking about that today at our production meeting, which was the most difficult. I, from being a player, a hitter, said the 500 home runs was the toughest. I think of that the 3,000 hits are the easiest. I know none of it's easy, but the easiest of those three. Because I believe the 300 wins not only depend on you pitching well, it depends on the good team and the people behind you. The 500 home runs, you know, some guys could play for 40 years and never hit 500 home runs. But 3,000 hits in the exclusive club as well, but I think you can accumulate 3,000 hits by being here a long time.
Being here, staying healthy.
Yeah, staying healthy.
Being a good player.
Yeah, you can't get 500 home runs just by staying healthy.
Well, the 500 home run club has been expanding. That's no swing, says first base umpire Fielden Culbreth. The count to Loduca, 1 ball and 1 strike. Batting with 1 out, nobody on here in the 4th, and the Mets leading back of Tom Glavine, 1-0. Jason Marquis, the pitcher, on the fists. Now Terrio throws him out. Loduca is 0 for 2. 2 down, and Lastings Village, the rookie, who came up in the same situation in the 2nd inning, drew a walk, stole second, and then got singled home by Tom Glavine. We may well see Kerry Wood, by the way, tonight. There's a Kerry Wood fan out of the bleachers. And Lou Piniella told me before the game, Joe, that he definitely is intended to get Wood in the game tonight. He was hoping to break him in a sort of a low impact situation since his recall from the minor leagues, where he'd been doing some rehab work. There's Wood. But he hadn't pitched in either of the 2 games of the series, and he wants to get him in there. This has been too long. He had not appeared in a major league game since June of last year. So 14 months have gone by since his last major league game. 1 ball, 1 strike. So we should see the return of Kerry Wood to action sometime later tonight. Millage, and as you mentioned, Joe, he's been hot lately. And that's fouled back out of play. Now the thing is about the 500 home runs, and that is a great feat. There's no question about it. But 300 victories have been tougher and tougher because of the way the game has changed. Pitchers often used to work in 4-man rotations. They'd make 40 starts a year. Sometimes they'd pitch more often than that. The further back in history you go. 11 of the first 300 game winners, the 11 initial 300 game winners, all pitched and got their 300th win before 1925.
And actually, I read an article saying that in 1925 they figured that was the last of the 300 game winners.
That's a base hit for Milledge. Well, there are only 3 more in the next 57 years after that. And now there have been 8 since 1982, beginning in 82. But also, sometime around that time is when the 4-man rotation disappeared.
Yeah, but the difference, John, is that players, not just pitchers, all the players today stay in better shape. You know, they stay in shape year-round, and they can pitch longer. They may not pitch as much, meaning 300 innings a year, but they can pitch longer years-wise.
Milledge, the runner at first, and when he was up there with Glavine up and 2 down in the second, he surprised everybody by taking off on a steal, and he stole it. Glavine then singled him home. Marquis holding for a long while, trying to change it up a little bit so as to make it a little more difficult for Milledge to get that jump. 1-1 the count.
And that works with a lot of base stealers, where the longer you hold the ball, the less chance they're going to have to steal. They sort of tighten up while they're ready to go. They're like a spring ready to go, and if you hold it, they can't go.
You see, that time he held it less. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Ball and 2 strikes to Glavine. Maybe they figured they took a big gamble, took a risk sending Milledge the last time. It worked. Now count your blessings. 1-2 the count. And again, as you pointed out, Joe, the reason it's a big risk is if you get thrown out, the pitcher leads off the next inning.
And in the National League, that's what you want if you're the defensive team. You always try to pitch that 8th place hitter, get him out so that the pitcher will be leading off the next inning.
By the way, we will be chatting with Willie Randolph after the Mets finish their at-bats here 60 seconds later. So stay tuned for that. Willie will chat with us. We'll be able to talk to him ourselves about that, Joe. 2-2 the count. 2 down. Milledge at first. Tom Glavine the hitter. 3-2. The only run of the game came in that second inning, though. The walk to Milledge with 2 down. He stole, Glavine singled him home, and then Reyes singled. After that, finally he got Castillo to end the inning. Now Glavine trying to do some damage here again. Milledge takes off from first base. And Glavine reaches for it, fouling it back. This was the at-bat for Glavine back in the second inning, after Milledge stole second. So Glavine got himself an RBI single, and that is a 1-0 game. And now Glavine gets a walk. So both pitchers giving the other pitcher a workout, and Larry Rothschild, the Cubs pitching coach, dispatched to the mound now by Lou Piniella to visit with Jason Marquis. So Rothschild talking to Marquis now. When Marquis was up against Glavine in the 3rd inning, he made Glavine throw 10 pitches before he finally got him out. Now Glavine has an extended at bat against him and gets a walk, and Marquis has thrown 70 pitches already. By the way, we got a word from the Cubs clubhouse as to the condition of Alfonso Soriano. They say there's a right quad strain.
That's not good. Just hope it's a minor strain, but if it's torn or anything like that, the quad is the toughest thing to heal, because that's what lifts your leg. That's where the strength comes in pulling your leg forward. You would rather have a hamstring pull than a quad pull.
2 men on, and Jose Reyes. And now the count is 2-0 to Reyes. The sinker missing. Down and away.
Problem with a quad, John, is you never know when it's healed. You think it's healed, and as soon as you make that burst again, you injure it again. Hamstring, you can tell when it's healed by the strength you have in it.
Right to the new second baseman, Fontenot, and the inning is over. Still 1-0. The Mets lead. Carlos Lee, Ramirez, and then Floyd coming up. We'll talk to Willie in 60 seconds. The Mets and the Cubs from hot, humid Wrigley Field. The Mets holding a 1-0 lead, and they got that lead in the 4th inning. A 2-out walk to last innings Millage, and then he stole second with the pitcher coming up. Tom Glavine knocked him in, and here's Willie Randolph, the manager of the Mets, from the dugout. Willie, thanks for being with us.
Hey, Willie, you stole that run in the 2nd inning. What was your thinking?
Well, he wasn't thinking. No, you know, I want my guys to be aggressive. I actually had him on hold there, but he felt he had a good jump. He felt he could steal it, so I trust my guys there.
Glavine, have you noticed any difference last time when he went out to try to win 300 and this time?
No, not at all. I mean, he looks pretty much the same. He's throwing the ball well, hitting his spots. You know, he had an opportunity to win last time, but we gave it up for him. But, you know, he's hitting his spots tonight. Hopefully he'll stay right there. We'll score a lot more runs for him. But he looks pretty much the same. He's been throwing the ball pretty well.
How's he on the bench, though? I mean, is there any anxiety there?
No, pretty calm. He's always cool, calm, and collected. So, you know, Tommy's just real focused, and we got to keep him that way.
How about Beltran? What do you think? When is he going to get back?
Well, I'm hoping that when he comes off the list on Wednesday, he'll be available for us. It's hard to say right now. He's getting his treatment, and hopefully by Wednesday we'll be able to activate him, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, you'd be on the disabled list as well, wouldn't you?
Yeah, until next spring.
All right.
Take care, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks to Willie Randolph.
And you see him wearing that sling, John. He would be on the disabled list as well. He can't throw.
Had the rotator cuff surgery during the All-Star break. Glavine back to work to Derek Lee. The Brewers, with whom the Cubs are in a tight pennant race battle, have Carlos Lee, a big slugger, whom they signed in the offseason. He's doing well. Derek Lee with the Cubs, and that one's called a strike, and Derek Lee is very unhappy with Marty Foster's call there.
Well, it used to be the argument all the time, you know, with players that the Atlanta Braves got this pitch off the outside corner more than anyone else, and you can see that is clearly below the strike zone, according to K-Zone.
2 strikes to count, and that one is way off the outside.
There was a time when Maddox and Glavine and they all pitched together there. They would even have the catcher almost sitting outside the catcher's box, so far on the outside corner.
Lee figured he better chase that low pitch now, and he is thrown out by Reyes.
Well, with 2 strikes, you better not take another one.
1-0. The Mets on top, last of the 4th inning. Braves, of course, won 14 consecutive first place finishes, and for many, many years they had those 3 all in the same rotation, all 3 Hall of Fame candidates. Greg Maddux has already won over 300 games lifetime. Glavine could do it tonight. John Smoltz has had a lot of wins as a starter and a lot of saves as a reliever. That is Castillo battling the wind, which is picking up again. And that's the second time Castillo made a nice play on a wind-blown pop-up.
John, that's one of those situations where he's been in the American League all his career. If you played here at Wrigley Field, when you go down that way as a second baseman, the ball always comes back. And watch, he'll have to reach back. And it's not just the wind. There's something in that area there where the wind always pushes it back. You always, if you watch, anytime the ball goes that way tonight, it'll always work its way back. And of course, Castillo hasn't played many games here in Wrigley Field. He wouldn't know that. But most second basemen who have played here in this league know that the ball always works its way back.
He's been playing at the Metrodome,
where the wind doesn't have any effect.
That's Cliff Floyd, a base hit to left field for the former Met. He walked his first time against Glavine. Glavine needs a quick inning. He threw a lot of pitches in the first 3 innings of this game. He had 56 pitches thrown, and at age 41, Joe, once he's up around 100 pitches, he's probably not going to be around much longer in a game. So if he's going to go much deeper than 6 innings or so, he's going to have to start throwing fewer pitches. Here's Mark DeRosa, his old teammate and friend. DeRosa flied out to right center his first time. And there's Sean Green. And that is a quick inning. And he's been needing one. A 7-pitch fourth inning. Castillo, David Wright, Carlos Delgado. Some good hitters coming up with the Mets, who lead 1-0.
MLB at Home is presented by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
In high definition, Wrigley Field, Chicago. Wrigley Field built in a non-high definition era. And some players feel it's an anachronism, but Cubs fans feel it's heaven on earth, and it's always full. There's ball one from Jason Marquis to Luis Castillo. Another jam-packed crowd here tonight. Cubs heading toward another season of over 3 million paying customers at Wrigley. And in a pennant race, Castillo drops a bunt, but foul. 1 ball, 1 strike. Castillo's hit a double to left and grounded out to short. David Wright, powerful young third baseman, on deck, and then Carlos Delgado, another powerful hitter, due up third. Castillo, .299 overall this year, including his time with the Twins. He was hitting over 300 at the time of the trade. And too high, 2 balls and 1 strike. Tom Glavine on a hot, sticky, extremely humid night, and they're trying to cool him down, Joe. What do they put in that towel to cool him off?
Sometimes they have ammonia and ice, mixture to keep you cool. And the interesting thing, John, is it was a beautiful day in Chicago today. It wasn't that hot downtown, but once you get into the friendly confines, as Ernie Banks says, it was just like all the heat in the area was right here in Chicago in Wrigley Field.
3-2.
I mean, I was down at the cage talking to the sweet swinger, Billy Williams of the Cubs, and former Cub player and Hall of Famer, and all of a sudden it just got so hot I had to leave because I didn't have another shirt.
3-2 the count. That's up the middle, base hit. So Castillo with his second hit.
John, I don't think I gave enough credit to Omar Minaya for bringing. There's Billy Williams, a sweet swinger. And I don't think I gave enough credit to Omar Minaya for bringing in Castillo. I think he, in my opinion, was a missing piece if all their guys are healthy in an everyday rotation. He's a gold glove second baseman. He adds more speed to the top of the lineup. He's a switch hitter that can do it all. And there's Omar Minaya and his family. So I think they made a great acquisition there at the deadline. And I think he's going to prove out to be very valuable to their offense and defense as the season progresses.
There's David Wright now, runner at first, and the sinker is too low. They had Jose Valentin playing second base. He had a very nice year for them last year and really solidified that position, but he had injury problems this year that put him on the shelf early this season. He came back, he was starting to get his stroke back, and then he got hurt again, and that really created a need, and Omar went out and filled it. That's a foul ball to that sinker. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. Of course, at the trading deadline, which was this past Tuesday, the Braves went out, got Mark Teixeira, the slugger from Texas, as well as a couple of left-handed relievers, Ron Mayhay and Royce Ring, not King, but Royce Ring, and also the right-handed reliever. He was a closer for Kansas City, Octavio Dotel. The Phillies also picked up a second baseman. They lost their great second baseman, Chase Utley, for a while, and they got Tada Iguchi from the Cubs immediately. Pat Gillick went out and acquired Iguchi from the White Sox, and Marquis buzzed David Wright with that last fastball. 2-1.
Fastball is tailing in, and Wright does a good job of getting out of the way. Castillo's a good base stealer normally. He had some leg problems early in the year when he was with Minnesota, and he was also playing on AstroTurf, which takes its toll on your legs.
2-1 the count. Center field going back is Pagan. Now he pulls up right on the warning track. Castillo tags up and makes it into second base.
Well, that's what that speed at the top of the order can do for you. We saw the speed at the bottom with Lasting Millage stealing a base. And then you see Castillo tag up. He sees it's deep. Now watch, he hustles back to first. And that's the key. You got to get back to first in time so you can take off as soon as he makes the catch. And he got back. As soon as he made the catch, he was on his way. And excellent.
Pagan, the wind pushed it a little further back. It looked like Pagan was surprised, Joe,
Yeah, well,
not anticipating it.
If that's the case, I blame the infielders a little bit for that, because you have to yell at him. He can't watch the runner and watch the ball in flight at the same time. The infielders are supposed to be yelling that the guy's tagging up, and someone should have seen that.
Carlos Delgado fouls one. The count 0-1 to Delgado. He has walked and grounded out to second. Second baseman Fontenot playing him well out into right field. Once again, one out, a runner at second. Castillo, who's no stranger to Wrigley Field. He'd recently been with the Twins, but he spent 10 years with the Florida Marlins in the National League. That one's down the right field line, and it's going to go to the ivy. Coming around third, Castillo, he'll score, and into second with a double. Carlos Delgado ahead of the throw by DeRosa. It is 2-0 Mets.
Well, it looked like it was a high pitch from Marquis. And lately, watching Delgado, he's been hitting the low pitch very well, but this one is up. Yep, up about belt high, and he just rips it. He rips it into right field for a base hit. And it's hit so hard, DeRosa tried to cut it off, but he couldn't get there in time.
Delgado's 26th double of the year and his 61st run batted in. Now Alou to try to get him home. And it's 0-1. And slider just disappeared as Moises took a shot at it. Moises has struck out and flied out to center.
And I don't think Castillo could have scored from first on that ball, because he had to wait, would have had to wait, make sure it's past DeRosa, so their aggressiveness on the base path plays off for a second run for them. Both their runs have been because of aggressive base running.
That's down the line, backhanded by Ramirez. After he looked Delgado back, he throws out Alou. So 2 men are gone. Delgado still at second. Sean Green coming up. Let's go to the studio for a SportsCenter 30 at 30 update with Steve Berthiaume. And a wild pitch thrown by Jason Marquis, and Delgado goes to third with 2 down.
It looked like it was a sinker, and it just bounced in front of Kendall. He couldn't get his body over in front of it. Delgado moves over to third.
And Sean Green to try and bring him home. Green is trying to shake himself out of a slump. Too high. 2-0. They got a right-handed hitter whom he has handled tonight. Paul Loduca on deck. Loduca's grounded out a couple of times, so he doesn't have to give in to Sean Green here with nobody at first. There's Loduca, a right-handed hitter on deck. 2-0 the count. 2-0 the score. The Mets out in front. And that's a strike.
A little slide piece. Something different. So if Sean Green was sitting on a fastball, gives him something different.
Tom Glavine with a 2-0 lead here in the 5th inning as the quest for victory number 300 in his brilliant career. That one snapped in there. Strike 2. 2-2 the count. Glavine, that's pretty much Glavine's look no matter what's going on. He is a stoic New Englander. 2-2 the count. Went back in right center is DeRosa. It's over his head into the ivy. Delgado scores a double for Sean Green, and Mark DeRosa, who started the game at second base, moved to right field, and that one fooled him.
Well, that one definitely fooled him, John. It was hit in the right center, and he looked like he thought he could cut it off. So he took the bad angle, but remember, he's been playing second base mostly, so it's a little tough. That's up in the strike zone, and Sean Green nails it. And you can see that he was going at the wrong angle, but he's not an outfielder by trade, so you put him out there, those are the risks you take.
Although he played just about everywhere this year. This
Right.
is,
But
he's
he's
had
not
15 games in right field, some at third, even a game at short, and 9 games at first. But as you say, Joe,
He's always
most of
been
his
an
games at
infielder.
second base.
Yeah, he has always been an infielder. When he was with Atlanta, that's why they didn't have a spot to play him. They had Marcus Giles there.
So here's Loduca. And again, the ground ball to short. He got jammed and is thrown out by Terrio. Well, he went after Sean Green, and it cost him. He had first base open. It's 3-0 Mets. As we go to the last of the 5th inning, Glavine back to the hill.
The new house is amazing.
Except there's this
Rat problem. At least Geico makes bundling our home and car insurance easy.
For bundling made easy, go to geico.com.
Tom Glavine back on the hill now with a 3-0 lead with which to work. In the last third of the Cubs batting order comes up. Angel Pagan showing bunt and taking low for ball 1. Pagan, then Jason Kendall, and then the pitcher spot due up third in the inning. Pagan grounded to second his first time. A switch hitter batting right-handed. And Glavine floats one over the outside, a changeup for a strike. Tom Glavine, whose heroes as a kid growing up in the Boston area, Bobby Orr, who was the great Boston Bruins Hall of Famer, and Carl Yastrzemski, the Red Sox great left fielder. And of course, Tom Glavine was a hockey player as well as a baseball player. And he once said, Joe, the truth be told, at that time as a kid, he probably loved hockey a little bit more than he loved baseball. 2-1 the count, and a foul back out of play. 2-2 the count. He's not only a great athlete, but a great student athlete, and 2 years in a row he won awards for being the best student athlete as well as just being the best athlete from the Boston Globe. 2-2 the count, and 3-2. Working the count, Glavine has now thrown 68 pitches in the game, working in the 5th inning. Little bloop behind second. Castillo, the hurried throw. Out! Nice play by the outstanding second baseman, Castillo.
Excellent play there by Castillo. Well, let's take a look and see what Glavine is doing. He's staying in tight the entire game on Derek Lee. He's throwing the ball away from Ramirez. He stayed away. He's moving the ball away from those right-handers and even a couple of curveballs to Marquis. So he's using everything tonight. Fastball, curveball, changeup. And the change in the fastball has been what he's used most of his career.
And he used to use it right over that outside edge, whether you were lefty or righty.
And he has changed. I mean, watching him tonight, he's keeping the hitters off balance more than I've ever seen him before. I mean, he's come inside a lot, and they've got some big right-handed hitters on the Cubs, and he's still come inside on them.
Tom Glavine also grew up in a very tight-knit family, and he said that his parents not only were always there for him, but they sacrificed. Sometimes they'd leave right in the middle of a vacation to get him to an American Legion game, for instance, in the middle of summer. Tom Glavine talked to us a little bit about that, and Warren Spahn, the great Hall of Famer, how much his dad loved Spahny.
My dad, you know, was a big Boston Braves fan growing up, and obviously Warren Spahn was the guy that he liked. And You know, I always remember as a kid when I was pitching, if I was struggling with something or wasn't sure about something, my dad would go, well, you know, this is what I heard Warren Spahn say, or this is what Warren Spahn says he does, you know. So indirectly, he was my pitching coach, I guess, when I was little, and I just didn't realize it.
You know, I faced Warren Spahn at the end of his career, John.
This is Marquis. Now Reyes streaking across the middle, throws him out. We'll pick that up a little bit. Joe Morgan versus Warren Spahn. Hall of Famer against Hall of Famer. The Mets lead 3-0. Glavine with a shutout going. Sunday Night Baseball from Wrigley Field, Chicago. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan. Peter Gammons will be back with us next Sunday when we are in Philadelphia. The Mets leading 3-0. Tom Glavine. There are a lot of Mets fans here tonight at Wrigley. Tom Glavine trying to win his 300th game. And there's a base hit by Millage down the line. Lastings Millage leading off against Marquis. First ball swinging, and he has a double. And Lastings Millage been like a second leadoff man down there in the number 8 spot, making things happen for the New York Mets tonight.
Well, we mentioned that he was swinging the bat well, and he's still hitting 8th, so it's a pretty good lineup. Take a look at the nationwide K-zone. Not a bad pitch. A sinker is in the middle of the plate, but it's down. And he pulls it down the third baseline past Aramis Ramirez. And he has a leadoff double.
So Millage is 2 for 2 plus a walk and a steal. And now here's Glavine in a bunt situation, although he drove in the first run of the night with a single. Drove in Millage. Pushes it, but foul on the third base side.
One of the things that all the Braves players were always able to do, the pitchers, Maddox, Smoltz, Glavine, they were all able to execute. Bunt when they needed to, put the ball in play as a hitter. And we've seen him do that in his first at bat by driving in a run. Now he's called upon the bunt, and let's see if he can get it down. This makes a big difference. One more run tacked on here is a big deal for the Mets.
There's the bunt, but this one goes foul. And Glavine is very disgusted as he walks away from the plate.
Well, Marquis did a good thing there. If the guy's trying to bunt, throw the ball high. The high pitch is the toughest pitch to bunt and get on the ground.
This is Dad Fred looking on.
So he pitches up. He's reaching out. It's harder to get that ball on the ground than it is a low pitch.
It landed in fair ground as it popped off the bat, but then spun foul. 0-2. He swings away and he gets the ball to the right side. Lee thought about third base, but Lastings Millage just too fast. Got an excellent jump, and Lee had to take the out at first, so Glavine figures out a way to get it done.
Well, I have to give Millage the credit there, John, because as you said, the speed of Millage is the reason that Derek Lee couldn't go to third, because he was in tight. But Millage is so fast they had no chance of going there. And see how tight Derek Lee is. I mean, he still would have a shot on most players, but Millage was off with the crack of the bat, and they had no chance to make the throw over there. But a good job, as you mentioned, by Glavine just to make sure he pulled and put the ball in play.
So Millage continues to make things happen. The infield comes in now for Reyes. Up the middle, through the drawn-in infield, base hit. And Millage is in to score. It is 4-0 Mets. Reyes with his second hit of the night and an RBI.
And again, the aggressiveness on the bases is the reason that they're scoring runs here, because if Millage would have stayed at second base, they had the infield back that may not have gone through.
Millage, what an exciting young player he is.
That's why they would not trade him. A lot of people wanted him, but they would not make the deal.
Lou Pinella's coming out. He's got Scott Ayer, the left-hander, ready in the bullpen, and he's made the call with the switch hitting Castillo coming up and a base stealer, number 1 in the majors, at first. We'll be back. We're at Wrigley Field, Chicago. The Mets now have a 4-0 lead. And here is Scott Ayer, the veteran left-hander, in for the bullpen, replacing Jason Marquis. 1 out, a run in, and a runner at first. The most prolific base stealer in baseball this year. That's Jose Reyes. And sure enough, Ayer makes a throw to first. Reyes has 52 steals and only been thrown out 14 times. You see Ayer's numbers, and Ayer was having a very bad season in the first half and had lost the trust of his manager, but he's pitched real well since the All-Star break. 9 consecutive scoreless appearances.
One of the problems he was having earlier was throwing strikes, John. He was walking too many hitters.
1 strike to count to Castillo. Now, when you hit second, you have to be willing to take a pitch or two, right?
He takes a lot of pitches anyway. You're right. With a guy like Reyes in front of you. But I mean, he does take a lot of pitches, both from the left side and the right side.
Gave it a little bit of a slide step that time to quicken up his delivery. 1 ball, 1 strike. Jose Reyes. I asked Jose, I said, how are you? And he says, I'm great. I'm always great.
He is. I mean, he seems that way. He's always laughing. He just loves to play baseball.
And back to the screen. 1 ball and 2 strikes. One of those guys who has that joie de vivre. He seems to just love life. And why not? He's a great young player. A ball and 2 strikes to count. Willie Randolph, who as the manager really helped nurture young players like Reyes and David Wright. They were a couple of priorities for Willie Randolph.
Well, he really helped Reyes because everyone was saying Reyes couldn't lead off because he didn't walk. He swung at too many bad pitches. He strike out. And Willie said, well, he's still learning to be a player. He's still learning to play in the big leagues. Just let him go. And he's turned into to be one of the best players in the game.
That's a ground ball into left field, a base hit. So Scott Air took great pains to keep Reyes from stealing, but ultimately loses the battle to Castillo, who hits a base hit. Castillo's 3rd hit of the game.
Well, now he's going to have to be very careful because both with the speed that these 2 guys have, they can steal 3rd base. There's a nationwide K zone. Looks like a little breaking ball. Didn't do a lot. And Castillo pulled it in the hole.
Right where nobody was. So now they've got lots of speed out there. The explosive speed of Reyes. Castillo, when he needs to, despite the leg problems, can still accelerate. And we saw him do it earlier tonight when he tagged up and went to second on a fly ball. And there's ball 1 to David Wright. David Wright has flied out to right field twice, flied out deep to center once. Hitting .302 for the year. 4-0. The Mets are leading. It's been a bad night for the Cubs and a bad night for Cubs fans. The Mets have taken over this game. Plus the Cubs lost their outstanding leadoff man Alfonso Soriano to a right quad strain. The runners go. The throw goes to second base, high and wide by Kendall. He had a chance to throw out Castillo, but it ends up being a double steal.
And that's what that threat does. That's the top of this lineup's going to make. That's why I say Castillo is going to be a big addition to this ball club. Now Reyes has a running buddy, so to speak. I mean, Reyes takes off. They make the wise choice by throwing to 3rd, but Castillo was stealing second, but Castillo was stealing as well. So you don't just run when the other guy runs. You have to steal the bag as well if you're the trailing runner.
Now they're going to walk David Wright. So the left-handed hitting Delgado on deck, so the double steal ends up taking the bat out of Wright's hand.
Yeah, but I think it's a great play because if Wright hits a ground ball, the inning's over. Now you have the runner 3rd with less than 2 outs, and even if Delgado doesn't get him in, you'll probably have a chance for Alou to drive him in. I think anytime you're aggressive, and the Mets have shown that tonight, aggressiveness on the bases without running into outs will always make you a better team. Will always give you more scoring opportunities.
The Mets have now had 14 men reach base in these first 6 innings. Now 15 total base runners in these first 6 innings. They got 3 of them on there right now for the veteran home run and RBI man Carlos Delgado. Delgado, who hit an RBI double his last time.
And now Reyes close to a balk.
Reyes was breaking down the line from 3rd, distracting Scott Air.
And maybe it wasn't a balk because he had called timeout at the plate, because he did move. Delgado had already called timeout.
And the slider, ball 1, down and away.
In fact, when he moved, Marty Foster told the Mets dugout that it was timeout because I think they saw him move as well.
So Reyes, the third baseman Ramirez, is playing well off third base with the left-handed pull hitter up there. And so Reyes took advantage of that, came breaking down the line from third. And he chases the slider. 1 ball, 1 strike. He helped the Mets win a ball game against the Giants earlier this year when Armando Benitez was the Giants closer. Now Armando's in Florida. But he did that same thing, and Armando balked. And that allowed the tying run of the game to score.
Well, Iyer balked too. Scott Air balked too, but it was timeout.
Almost hit him inside. 2-1. He threw those 2 sliders way outside, and Delgado lunging in toward the plate and almost got hit by that fastball. Lou Piniella hoping that Air maybe could get a ground ball right at somebody and keep the Cubs in the neighborhood in this game. The Mets are thinking about breaking it wide open right here.
Big pitch. Yeah, that's what it did. Delgado to be able to lay off of that pitch. Now it's 3-1. Now he's got to give him a pitch to hit. He chased it on 1 ball, no strikes, and he was able to hold up at 2-1. Now he definitely has to get a pitch to hit.
Moises Alou on deck.
And no one warming in the Cubs bullpen.
Bases loaded, 1 out. Back to the screen. He challenged him, and he fouled it straight back.
He got the high fastball, but I'm not so sure that was a pitch he wanted. It was in on him a little bit and up, and he was asking the pitch. Home plate umpire was at a strike. It wasn't as high as I thought, but it was definitely in. What do you do here if you're Air? Do you go with the breaking ball, or you try to challenge him again?
3 balls, 2 strikes. Off the hands. Charged by Fontenot, and he gets the 1 out at first base as Reyes scores. Ball just not hit very hard, and the other runners advance. Castillo to third, Wright to second, and it is 5-0 Mets.
Well, the problem is, John, when you're playing that deep with a guy like Delgado and it's not hit sharp, you take that double play out. If you're in a situation like that, in my opinion, you have to play a little closer. You have to play a little more shallow. See how deep he is? If he was in close, he could have charged that ball and maybe even gotten a runner to tag him or to flip it if he's playing normal double play situation. But with Delgado up, you're playing him too deep.
Would he have had time to spin around and throw to second base?
Well, if he's in closer, that's my point. I just don't like that.
Even as it was, though, as it was.
Well, it was a risky play. I don't think he could have gotten 2. He could have gotten 1. See, when you have these unorthodox defenses, when you set up like in right field and whatever, you're actually taking away your chances of making a double play on a routine ground ball or one that's hit speed.
Salou walked intentional. Second intentional walk issued here, and Sean Green, another lefty, coming up.
Watch how deep Fontenot is at second base. I mean, normally normally on a double play, you're in here someplace, especially if the bases are loaded when you have to do it. But look how deep he is. I mean, there's no way. I mean, even if there's a ground ball or shortstop, he wouldn't have been able to get there. See, that's not that slow a ball. But you're playing so deep, you just have no chance.
But plus, you could see if he'd thrown to second there,
he might have hit the runner in the back.
Yeah, he's right in the baseline himself.
Yeah.
It would have been real risky.
Right.
And then you're looking at an all hell breaking loose in that inning. So
I think you just have to play the defense that will get you out of the jam. I mean, you have guys like Barry Bonds, Big Papi, they play him in right field. You're just giving up too much, I think.
Sean Green, the hitter, and that's inside. 2-0 to Sean Green. Bases loaded again. The Mets have 2 runs in and lead 5-0 here in the 6th. There is Castillo, then Wright at second, and Alou at first. With 2 down, they'll all the back. Green hit a double. It sailed over the head of DeRosa in right center his last time. That's picked up by Terrio. Nice pickup. And in the dirt, pulled out by Lee. The out is recorded. So they get only the 2. Top of the order for the Cubs coming up. Fontenot, Terrio, and Derek Lee. Tom Glavine now with a 5-0 lead. Last of the 6th inning, and Tom Glavine back to work now with a 5-0 lead as he is looking for that 300th career victory. He throws a called strike to Mike Fontenot, up for the first time he came in for the injured Alfonso Soriano. Soriano suffered a right quad strain trying to go from first to third on a base hit back in the third inning. So Fontenot up for the first time, Ryan Theriot and Derek Lee to follow here in the last of the sixth. And as we watch Glavine a little bit outside, 1 ball and 2 strikes, we are very pleased to be joined on the telephone by Glavine's former teammate and now adversary, the ace of the Atlanta Braves pitching staff, John Smoltz. And John, welcome to Sunday Night Baseball. So I know you had other things happening tonight, but you were able to, you've seen a little bit of the ball game and seen some of Glavine's appearance. How do you read it?
It was interesting, John. We talked to Willie Randolph. I asked him had he seen anything different sitting on the bench. You know, the last 2 times he's going for 300, and he said he hasn't seen anything different. So it kind of goes along the way you view Glavine. When you guys were all there together, you, Maddox, Glavine, Avery even, all the young guys, did you think that Maddox and Glavine would ever reach 300 victories?
Ryan Theriot grounds out, 2 down.
How are you doing?
So you were a teammate with Tom as we see Derek Lee take ball 1. Lee is 0 for 2. You guys started together in the late 80s, and the Braves were a bad team in those days. You guys you did a lot of losing together.
How are you doing?
Well, you guys had a big showdown series starting Tuesday night, and you're scheduled Wednesday. Now, John, you guys went out, and your general manager, John Sherholtz, was very active at the trading deadline. You got the big slugger, Mark Teixeira. You got some pitching help. It looks like you guys can't be beaten now. That ball stayed fair. The throw to second. He's in there with a double for Derek Lee. The wind is not blowing the way it had been, but what little wind there is might have helped keep that one fair.
Well, he had been pitching Derek Lee inside most of the evening, and this is a off-speed pitch away. And he hits it off the end of the bat, and it just stays fair, as you mentioned, down the right field line. But I tell you, the ball always comes back on that side. That's one of the peculiarities of this ballpark.
Well, you played here many times. So John Smoltz is on the phone with us, and John, Aramis Ramirez And the Cubs, they've been hot, but they may have lost their all-star leadoff man Soriano tonight. That's a terrible blow to the Cubs. Two 2-0 to the slugger, Aramis Ramirez, and he goes to the inside for a called strike. So, John, you guys, the Braves, were always so workmanlike, so professional, but you also had a swagger. It's like you guys knew you were good and you were going to win. And you made these changes now. You have some new faces. Do you have that swagger right now? That one's over the head of Millage in center field, and Derek Lee scores the first run of the night for the Cubs against Tom Glavine. Ramirez with a long double to the deepest part of the park. 6-1, or rather 5-1 Mets.
And that's why I was telling you that Ramirez can handle Glavine, and because everything away, he goes back through the middle or to right center. He doesn't try to pull him all the time until he gets him into a fastball situation. This is supposed to be a fastball in. He doesn't get it in. It's pretty much in the middle of the plate and down, but he's still not trying to pull it. He goes right back through the middle with it and hits a line drive over the head of Millage. Millage got a pretty good jump on it, but that ball hit right at the base of the 400-foot mark, and it was a line drive. But again, I don't think Glavine matches up really well against a guy like Ramirez because he can't keep him honest enough inside.
And there is Tom Glavine's wife, Chris, looking down to the bullpen. They've got some action going now to the Mets. Jorge Sosa, the right-hander, and Pedro Feliciano, the left-hander. And Tom Glavine is up around 94 pitches now. John Smoltz on the phone with us. And John, I mean, Glavine in these later years of his career, that's getting close to the limit, I would imagine, for him. That's a good point.
No, I think that's a great point, John, in that, you know, we said they always have pressure, but trying to save a guy's 300, especially after they couldn't save it in his last start.
5-1 the score now as Cliff Floyd takes ball 2 inside. That almost hit him. Floyd has walked and singled to left, and he's always been a tough out for Tom Glavine. He's hitting over 400 against Glavine lifetime. 293 average this year, although not hitting for power. Floyd's always been a big power threat in years past. Ramirez at second. Got the call on the outside there. 2-1 the count. John Smoltz, you're up against the Mets on Wednesday, 7 o'clock. That'll be on ESPN on Wednesday Night Baseball. And we really appreciate you calling in. So if Glavine gets number 300 tonight, do you send him something? You call him? I know you guys are still friendly. All right. All right. Glad to hear it. John Smoltz, many thanks.
All right. Thanks, John.
It's John Smoltz, who had an event tonight, a fundraising event. Nonetheless, took the time to call us on what could be a very special night for his old teammate, Tom Glavine. We appreciate it. And the curveball. He struck him out with the hook. So Glavine has gone 6, allowing 1 run. And as he walks off the field, the fans at Wrigley Field, Chicago, with a standing ovation, knowing that this might be the last they'll see of Glavine on this night. Kerry Wood in the game. His first appearance in over a year. First ball swinging. Loduca grounds out to third. Kerry Wood came in from the bullpen. Let's go back and listen to the reception as the crowd saw him come in. I very optimistically gave the Cubs fans credit for saluting Tom Glavine, who may be leaving the ball game now. But I think, Joe, Kerry Wood is actually the answer to that question. Who are they cheering for?
Yeah, it was Kerry Wood because he ran right in from the bullpen right to the mound, and they saw him coming.
But if I'm Tom's mom and dad and his wife and children, the story is going to be about how the great fans at Wrigley give a standing ovation to Tom Glavine.
I actually think
when he left the mound on the night that he may well win his 300th game.
I think Tom is finished for the evening. But he is on deck, though.
Yeah, they got action in their bullpen.
Yeah.
Kerry Wood, who has had so many injury problems, but who also, teaming with Mark Pryor in their rotation, almost helped get them to the World Series in 2003. There's Guillermo Mota warming up in the Mets bullpen. And camera flashes go off all around Wrigley with each pitch thrown by Kerry Wood. Cubs fans want to get memories of Kerry Wood's return. And he looks a lot more slender, Joe, than I remember the last time we saw him, which was in a big league game, was 14 months ago. Everybody giving chase. This one reaches back into the stands. Look at the camera flashes that go off at Wrigley Field with the pitch. Kerry Wood, who is not going for his 300th win, although the way his career started, I think we thought maybe that he would one day. Now the crowd on its feet as he's got a 3-2 count. And a ground ball base hit for Lastings Milledge. Lastings Milledge is again aboard. He's got 3 straight hits coming after a walk. He's been on base 4 times. And there's Ricky Henderson, the first base coach, giving him the high five. And Tom Glavine will come up now in a sacrifice situation.
Well, maybe he's going to go back out there, John, because this is a situation where the way that Milledge has been running, why not just let him steal second or try to steal second and save your out?
And then bunt him to third?
Yeah, exactly.
He's bunting. Already 1 out, and that is the second out. Milledge around second, getting the attention of Fontenot, who was covering. So Glavine gets the bunt down.
Good job by Glavine to deaden the ball down the third base line and get Milledge over to second base.
So now 2 down. And whether or not that is the last thing we see Glavine do remains to be seen. But the bullpen is still working. Guillermo Mota, the right-hander, warming up. And there's that famous hook from Kerry Wood, and it's 0-1 to Jose Reyes. Mota heating up in the right field bullpen. Tom Glavine has thrown 99 pitches in his 6 innings, allowing 1 run and 5 hits. The Mets are leading 5-1, and they've been putting runs with regularity on the board, playing a lot of little ball, inside baseball, stealing bases, hitting behind the runners. Reyes led a double steal in that 2-run 6th inning. Inside, 95 miles an hour from Kerry Wood. Wood pitched on consecutive days a couple of times on his minor league rehab, because that was a question they needed to have answered if he was going to come here to the big leagues in a pennant race and work out of the bullpen. Fastball misses, and it is 3-1. Reyes 2 for 4 in the game, 2 singles and a run scored and a run batted in. Lou Piniella, and Wood could be, if he's healthy, if he can throw strikes, he could be a great weapon in that Cubs bullpen, really solidify the pen. Tom Glavine, much more chatty, much more sociable. Talking to Rick Peterson, the pitching coach. So I think that game face has evaporated, Joe.
Well, I do too, but it's still unusual to have him stay in there just to bunt, but they definitely wanted to move him into scoring position.
Sliders struck him out. And they go into the 7th-inning stretch at Wrigley Field with another standing ovation for Kerry Wood. He's back on the north side. Look at that pitch. Nasty. 5-1 Mets. Tom Glavine is still in there, just as you surmised, Joe. Ball 1 down and away. I've been doing my best to get Glavine out of the game.
Yeah, but I just didn't think you'd leave him in there to bunt.
Nice lunging grab by Wright, and he throws out Mark DeRosa. DeRosa is now 0 for 3 against Tom Glavine, a 2-pitch out. He's thrown 101 pitches. His wife, Chris, and the kids. Right down by the Mets dugout on the first base side. His mom, Mildred. His dad, Fred, also here tonight. Here is Angel Pagan, and that is too low for ball 1. I had Glavine. I had them giving him a standing ovation after 6 innings, figuring that he was leaving.
Well, that
was for Kerry Wood, as it turned out.
Trick because he's coming from the other side of the field.
That's a fair ball, and it hit the foul line. And Pagan into second with a double. Moises Salou returns it. First hit for Pagan.
Change-up, he doesn't get it down in a way, but it wasn't a bad pitch.
Well, here comes Willie Randolph, and that is going to be it for Tom Glavine. 6 1/3 innings. He's allowed 6 hits, and he'll depart with a 5-1 lead. Other Mets infielders congratulate him on a strong night. Guillermo Mota is coming in, and now they are giving Tom Glavine a big ovation at Wrigley Field, knowing that they may have seen him win his 300th game. The great fans of Wrigley Field, they appreciate the game. 5-1. We'll be back. And now to the Mets bullpen and the pressure of which John Smoltz spoke earlier when he was chatting with us via telephone. And as you added to that, Joe, there's always pressure in being a reliever, especially trying to hold a lead, but it's magnified considerably when you're trying to hold the lead for a guy's 300th win. They've got a little more breathing room, though, than they did on Tuesday in Milwaukee when the bullpen was handed a 2-1 lead. Mota comes in here in the 7th inning with a 5-1 lead. Pagan at second, Kendall the hitter. And that's a base hit to right field. One hop to green, and Pagan will be held at third as Delgado cuts off the throw. Jock Jones on deck to bat for Kerry Wood. Tom Glavine looking for that 300th win. He took the mound a little bit after 7 o'clock, knocked in the first run of the game with a single, and dazzled the Mets, or the Cubs, most of the night, much to the joy of his family, his wife Chris, their 4 children here. And Tom Glavine got a very warm ovation, although he's a New York Met, from these Cubs fans as he finally did depart the game here in the 7th. So now Guillermo Mota is going to be removed from the game. Jock Jones, a left-hander, has been put in with another lefty right behind him, Fontenot, and Pedro Feliciano is summoned for the Mets bullpen. Still only 1 out with 2 men on. The Mets are leading 5-1. Cubs with a threat. Sunday Night Baseball from Wrigley Field, Chicago, presented by Taco Bell. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan. Peter Gammons will be back with us next week when we're in Philadelphia. The Mets are leading 5-1 here in the last of the 7th. Here's a look at our Lowe's home team advantage. And for Wrigley Field, it's the advantage if this happens to be where your home team plays. There are lots of thrills here and lots of great moments over the years. Here's a sampling. Ernie Banks hit his 500th year in 1970. 1985, Pete Rose tied Ty Cobb for #1 on the all-time list of base hits. 1998, Kerry Wood had a 20 strikeout game against Houston. What a game that was. Sammy Sosa, 3 different years, hit his 60th home run right here at home in the friendly confines. And now, perhaps they will have seen Tom Glavine with his 300th. But there's a long way to go. Feliciano, the left-hander, in for the bullpen. With runners at first and third, 1 out. Jock Jones, the hitter, hitting .252, 2 home runs. The infield double play depth. He slings that one in there for a called strike. 5-1 Mets, but a couple of base hits could cut that lead in half. Pagan at third and Kendall at first. And Castillo, the sure-handed Castillo, gets the sure out. But Pagan comes in to score. Charge that run to Tom Glavine. Kendall over to second with 2 down now. So there is Kendall in scoring position. And tension with the Glavine family. They were all there Tuesday in Milwaukee in the 2-1 lead with which Glavine left the game. It lasted until the 8th inning, and when the Brewers tied, and eventually they won the game in extra innings. And there's strike 1 to Fontenot. Now Fontenot's up rather than Alfonso Soriano, because Soriano suffered a right quad strain trying to go from first to third in the 3rd inning, had to leave the game. Will Ullman, the left-hander you saw up in the Cubs bullpen. Aaron Heilman is up in the Mets bullpen, a right-hander. And that's off the outside. You got 3 right-handed hitters in a row coming up next. There's Heilman, the right-hander, in the Mets pen. Two and 1 the count to Fontenot. 5-2 the Mets lead. That is a fair ball down into the Cubs bullpen. Kendall is in to score. It's a double for Fontenot. And the Cubs are right back in the game.
Fastball inside, and he just fights it off down the left field line. It was a pretty good pitch. He just fought it off, hit him on the hands a little bit.
Willie Randolph out to the mound again. The bullpen has faced 3 hitters and allowed 2 hits so far. Aaron Heilman comes in. Terrio the hitter. Derek Lee right behind him. It is now 5-3. And Cubs fans trying to inspire a comeback. If they can win this ball game, not only will they deprive Tom Glavine of his 300th victory, but they would move back by percentage points into first place ahead of Milwaukee in the Central Division. Aaron Heilman, and Terrio fouls one. Ryan Terrio 1 for 3 in the game. With 1 out, Angel Pagan hit a double, and that was all for Tom Glavine, who had thrown 103 pitches. Mota came in. He gave up a single to Jason Kendall, the only man he faced. And then Feliciano came in. He got an infield out from Jock Jones on a run scored. Then Fontenot doubled home a run. He's at second. It is 5-3 Mets. Derek Lee on deck. Along the right field line. Sean Green goes over, but this one will reach back into the crowd. 0-2. On Tuesday night, Glavine left in the 7th inning at Miller Park on that base hit. And it was a 2-1 lead with which he left and got a nice ovation from the crowd. But in the 8th inning, Mota, with 2 men on, gave up this shot down the left field line by Milwaukee's Bill Hall. And it was probably fortunate for the Mets that the ball bounced over the wall, but a run scored to tie the game. And Glavine no longer could win number 300. He left tonight with a 5-1 lead. Now it's 5-3. Still in the 7th. There's Lastings Millage. And the inning is over. The powerful Derek Lee stranded on deck. But the Cubs are right back in it. It's 5-3. Castillo, David Wright, Carlos Delgado coming up. Here come the Mets into the 8th inning. Will Oman, the left-hander, on to pitch, and a bunt attempt by Castillo, but he fouls it back to the screen. And Luis Castillo, who was not doing a whole lot with the bat in his first 5 games as a Met, tonight is doing a lot. 3 hits, 4 at bats. You see Oman's numbers for the year. Throws hard, good slider. David Wright, a right-handed hitter on deck, and then Delgado, the lefty, due up third. In the dirt. 1 ball, 1 strike. And Joe, you were talking earlier about one of the differences where years and years ago more pitchers were around long enough to win 300 games because more pitchers used to finish what they started.
True.
It wasn't left up to the bullpen. No. And that's a ball inside.
Well, with the specialization we have now, and they kind of started with Tony La Russa in Oakland, you know, trying to shorten the game. Once you get to the 7th inning, you would pretty much take your starter out. And a lot of guys didn't learn to pitch and win.
That's the 4th hit of the game for Luis Castillo. He's 4 for 5. Michael Wirtz, the right-hander you saw warming up in the bullpen.
He becomes just like a second leadoff man because Reyes is the leadoff guy, and if Reyes gets on, they just work well together. If Reyes doesn't get on, now he becomes the leadoff man. And he still has the same type of speed. He's not running as well right now, but before the season's over, I'm sure you'll see him stealing bases as well as Reyes does.
Here's David Wright. Lastings Millage, whom we saw a moment ago in the dugout, also having a big night. He's had 3 hits plus a walk, so both he and Castillo have been on base 4 times. David Wright 0 for 3 with a walk. He was walked intentionally in the 6th inning, and he takes ball 1. Of course, Ricky Henderson, one of the greatest leadoff men, maybe the top leadoff man in history, now the Mets' first base coach. And Ricky's been a guy, they've kind of put Jose Reyes under Ricky's wing the last couple of years. And Ricky has not only given Reyes some of his expertise on base stealing, reading pitchers, that sort of thing, but also about being a more patient hitter. And it really has paid off.
Well, Ricky Henderson, in my opinion, is the best leadoff hitter I've ever seen anyway.
The big cut by Wright.
Ricky Henderson would walk. He could hit with power. He was a good hitter with that for average. He could steal bases. I mean, he could do everything that you would ask for a leadoff hitter. And he's should be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
You go back and you look at some of his numbers.
Yeah, they're just unbelievable.
And you think it's a joke that somebody's just kidding you. 2-1 the count. That's a base hit to right field for Wright. Over to second base goes Castillo. David Wright joins the hit parade. The Mets have 13 hits in this game, and the fans are not happy with Will Oman.
Fastball inside, but he was going the other way. See inside outs at the right field. He's trying to take advantage of the hole on the right side if he hit it on the ground.
So now Delgado, and there's nobody out with 2 men on. So the Mets, who had their 5-1 lead cut in half, are going after those runs again. Delgado has walked, grounded out, doubled home a run, and brought in a run with a ground out. The runners are going, or one runner was going anyway. It's a steal of third by Castillo. David Wright, the trailing runner, took a step and then thought better of it.
Well, what you have to do is always watch the guy at second base and try to take off when he takes off. But Wright did the proper thing there by not going because he didn't have as good a jump as Castillo did.
That's the 4th stolen base by the Mets in this game. 2 of them by Castillo. He was the trailing runner on a double steal, although he's the runner that Kendall tried to throw out. the last time. So the hole still open on the right side with Lee holding on the bag against Wright. 0-2. Foul tip. Moises Alou on deck.
The reason the catcher throws to second base in that situation if the runner goes is because he can see the runner at second take off, and he could see that he had no chance of throwing Castillo out at third, so he came up wanting to throw Wright out at second. You can always see how good a jump the guy has from second if you're the catcher.
Into right center field, into the gap. That ball is off the ivy. Castillo scores. Wright will be held at third. A booming double by Carlos Delgado, his third RBI of the night. 6-3 Mets. Three straight hits allowed by Will Ullman since he started this inning. Well, we've seen the Mets forcing the action, stealing bases. Now we see some of that power shown.
Well, Delgado's been swinging the bat well on low pitches that I've watched in the last couple of weeks. That's a low pitch. He reaches out and rakes it in the gap. He almost hits it out. It hits off the wall in the fly.
John Glavine's wife, Chris, leading the cheering from the Mets section down there, or the Glavine section. And the Mets fans still looking for 300. Lou Piniella went out to the mound, and he barely got to the mound and made a gesture with his right hand to turn around and walk back.
Well, I think what he was trying to say is, all right, we're going to walk Lou, yeah, and then we're going to go ahead and pitch to Sean Green. I guess Lou may have been a little angry at what was going on and didn't look at the lineup. And then when he got out there, he realized that the next hitter was a left-handed hitter, Sean Green.
They're walking Alou. Two 2-0 the count. It was a rather dismissive type gesture by Lou, who did not even go up on the hill with the pitcher. Got to the mound, made a gesture as if say walk him, and turned around and went back.
Well, something else was going on because he didn't have to go out there to tell him to walk him.
I mean, it looked like he was very unhappy.
Yeah, he was. He was looking to the bullpen. But I have no idea. You don't have to walk to the mound to tell him to put him on. He had to change his mind on his way out there.
Michael Wirtz, the right-hander, warming up. Here's Sean Green. The infield comes in. Nobody out. And Sean helps him out a little bit. Swinging at a high fastball. Out of the zone. Green apparently doesn't see the ball well out of Ullman's hand. He's 0 for 5 against him. Struck out 3 of those 5 times. Sean hit a double in the 5th inning to knock in a run. And it's 1 for 4. Bases loaded, nobody out. And the slider on the outside. 6-3 Mets, and they're threatening to bust it wide open. Wright at third. Delgado, who doubled home the run, at second, and then Alou, who was walked intentionally. 0-2 to Sean Green. Back to the slider. Green took it. 1 ball, 2 strikes. The crowd very quiet. And the Cubs, any chance the Cubs have it coming back, may well be determined here as to how many more they're able to get out of this situation, well, if any.
That's why they're playing the infield in. They know they can't fall any further behind.
1-2. Green fighting that one off. Loduca, a right-handed hitter, is on deck. The Mets have had 14 hits in this game and have received 6 walks. They've stolen 4 bases. Cubs have thrown a wild pitch. He struck him out.
Now you'll see him come out.
Piniella signaling to the bullpen for Michael Wirtz, the right-hander. The bases are still loaded. Now a double play grounder would end the inning with nobody else scoring. So big moments coming up, and we'll be right back. Fans show the world what a real fan looks like. Reenact an immortal postseason moment, and you could win a trip to the World Series. Just go to October.com for your chance to win. John Miller, Joe Morgan with you. Peter Gammons will return next Sunday when we're in Philadelphia for the Braves and the Phillies, 8 o'clock Eastern time from Citizens Bank Park. And here's Michael Wirtz. Been a busy man. This is his 52nd appearance of the year. And Wirtz trying to hold the line here. Now Loduca is a double play candidate, and he's hit 4 ground ball outs tonight. He's not a fast runner. He's also nursing a bad right hamstring. Too high. So if he can get the double play, it will stay 6-3. Loduca has other ideas.
Well, Loduca's a smart player. He's going to try to make sure he gets the ball in the air because he is injured.
1 ball and no strikes. Bases are loaded, as you saw. Base hit. David Wright will score. Delgado had to hold to make sure that was not caught by Ramirez. And Paul Loduca, that ball might have hit the dirt if he hadn't hit it first.
Well, like I said, he wanted to make sure he did not hit a ground ball. So he's going to get underneath it, which he did. Although he hits a line drive, but still. So he gets underneath it and he hits a line drive, base hit to left field. Actually a pretty good pitch. Ball was down, but he was determined to get the ball in the air, and that's what you have to do if you're injured. You make sure you do not hit it on the ground.
And more cheering there from the Glavine family rooting section. Chris Glavine, Tom Glavine's wife, here with their children, and about 30 people altogether, family, friends, neighbors, that Tom has brought to town as he tries to win his 300th game. Lastings Millage pops this one up. Derek Lee, the infield fly rule is in effect. He makes the catch anyway. Millage was immediately out as soon as they called the infield fly, and the runners have to hold. So 7-3 the score, and now Marlon Anderson is going to come up. The Mets lead 7-3. Marlon Anderson, recently brought back to the Mets, who's been an excellent pinch hitter for them. In the bullpen, Jorge Sosa is warming up. So Willie Randolph, he has Aaron Heilman, one of his top lead inning relievers, but Joe is saying, he's saying right here, let's go for the jugular.
Well, I also think I'm a little surprised because I thought he would get Wagner up as well. But he's hoping that they can get a big enough lead that he won't even have to warm him up.
Strike one to Marlon Anderson.
He's going to do everything he can to make sure that Tom Glavine gets his 300th victory tonight. There's Billy Wagner down in the pen.
Billy Wagner has saved 12 Tom Glavine victories as Sosa gets ready in the pen. Bases loaded. Delgado, Alou, Loduca, the 3 runners from third back to first. 2 down. Angel Pagan in center, and that's the inning. But they get those 2 runs back. They lead again by 4. 7-3 Mets. Lee, Ramirez, and Floyd, the power coming up for the Cubs.
MLB at Home is presented by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Coming up tomorrow, a doubleheader starting on ESPN at 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 Central, as the San Diego Padres take on the St. Louis Cardinals. Then at 10 Eastern, 9 Central on ESPN2, Barry Bonds and the Giants will be hosting the Washington Nationals. Bond, having tied Henry Aaron yesterday, will be looking for the record back home where he was hoping to hit it all along, and taking on young John Lannon. Luis Castillo, that you saw right there, being helped out of the Mets dugout. Castillo, who led off that 8th inning with a single and eventually stole third base, and Ruben Gotay goes in to play second base. And it didn't look good. Castillo
No, they
looked
were
to be hurting big time. So there is Ruben Gotay. Now at second base, replacing Castillo. So more worries for the man at the top, Willie Randolph. Lost his other second baseman, Jose Valentin, and now he, after Omar Minaya traded for another one, now he's hurting. And Minaya on the phone, I suppose, called in the clubhouse to find out what's going on.
Or trying to find another one someplace.
Here is Derek Lee, the power coming up for the Cubs. Lee, first ball swinging. Reyes from shallow left field slip and still throws him out.
Man, that's what you call great arm strength there, because he lost his rhythm and he still had a strong enough arm that he could make the throw, although he's testing his leg out there. He takes this ball deep in the hole. He's going to set himself, then he slides. He slips on his right leg. Now he just straightens up and fires with nothing but arm strength, and he's still able to get Derek Lee.
The crowd did not like the call, but he clearly did get him.
Well, they got a call yesterday where they called him safe in a similar situation. They called Tirios safe yesterday.
Now Aramis Ramirez, and a fastball in there at 95 miles an hour from Sosa. Strike one. Last of the 8th inning, 7-3. The Mets are leading, and the Mets bullpen needs to get 5 outs more for Tom Glavine to record his 300th career victory. Reyes, a high hop, has to hurry. He got it. So 2 plays of great difficulty, and a different style, but he handled them both beautifully. As we see Sosa's numbers for the year, been used as both a starter and a reliever. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan. Sunday Night Baseball from Wrigley Field, Chicago. You got the Cubs, who with a win will move into first place in the Central by percentage points over Milwaukee. The Mets, who need a win to maintain their advantage over both Atlanta and the Phillies. Both teams won earlier today. And the big story, Tom Glavine, the veteran lefty, with a win will have 300 victories. He'll be only the 23rd ever to reach 300, and maybe the last one.
Well, the only one we think that may have a good shot is Randy Johnson, if he's healthy enough. Because if he's healthy, he can win 16 more ball games.
He's to undergo back surgery now, and he's also 44 years old. A pop-up by Cliff Floyd, foul, and back out of play. Floyd has walked, singled, and struck out. Tom Glavine went 6 1/3. He allowed 2 runs and 6 hits. Here's Ryan Dempster getting ready in the Cubs bullpen, ordinarily their closer. Billy Wagner, the Mets closer. No need for him so far tonight. And Sosa's doing a great job here, going through the big sluggers in the Cubs batting order in the 8th inning. And he's had a good strategy, Joe.
Yeah,
he's made him hit the ball to Reyes.
That's very good strategy.
Two down, nobody on. Mark DeRosa would be next. Tom Glavine, in this game where he might secure his 300th win, got an RBI single. The last time a pitcher actually got a hit of any kind in his 300th win, and we don't know if Glavine's going to get it yet, but just in case he does, was Steve Carlton back in 1983. And that was also the last time a pitcher knocked in a run in the game that saw him win number 300. Sosa has walked Floyd. Tom Glavine back in the 2nd inning after Millage walked and stole second. He hit one right through the middle and brought him in. That was the first run of the game. Glavine had the curveball working, and got a lot of cheers from right near the Mets dugout from the Glavine family rooting section. Tom Glavine got a nice ovation from the fans here when he departed with 1 out in the 7th inning. The last pitcher to win his 300th game was Greg Maddux, a former Cub. He did it for the Cubs 3 years ago in San Francisco against the Giants. And a year before, Roger Clemens did it. But both Maddux and Clemens had chances to win their 300th right here at Wrigley Field and were not able to do it. Glavine's numbers for the night: 300 wins. Runner at first, and DeRosa fouls one. You were mentioning complete games, Joe, and how in the old days guys didn't have to be so much dependent on their bullpen to get a win. Cy Young, who's had more wins than anybody, as Billy Wagner gets up in the bullpen now. Cy Young had 749 complete games in his career. Even Warren Spahn had 382 complete games, including a 16-inning complete game in San Francisco against Juan Marichal, where Willie Mays hit a home run for the only run of the game in the bottom of the 16th. So now the plate umpire, Marty Foster, is getting a visit from the Cubs trainer. Been a tough night for the players, for the umpires, with this stifling heat and humidity. Cy Young, 749 complete games out of 815 games started, so he always finished. Sometimes he'd start and finish 2 games in the same day. Warren Spahn, 382 complete games. Nolan Ryan, 222. Now then, a big drop: 118 for Clemens, 109 for Maddux, 57 for Glavine. So that sort of traces the history of the bullpen versus starters. Complete games are sort of a dinosaur from another age now.
Well, I think Bob Gibson in one season had 34 complete games. So you're right. And now if you get a guy that has 5 complete games, it'll lead the league.
Well, Juan Marichal, Jim Palmer, was very ordinary for them to have 28 to 30 complete games in a season. Sandy Koufax, Don Drysdale. It's a day off for the bullpen for those when those guys pitched. The 300th win as a complete game. Gaylord Perry did it in 1982. Steve Carlton in '83. Tom Seaver finished his 300th win in 1985. Phil Niekro not only finished it, he had a shutout. And Don Sutton had a complete game for the Angels against Texas in 1986. Tim McClellan talking to the plate umpire Marty Foster, and Foster trying to find out if he can continue this game. Got him right on the mask. That you can suffer a concussion, and a lot of bad things can happen, and Marty Foster is not doing well, and it looks like he may leave the game. Tim McClellan is the crew chief. He's alongside Foster, and he is wearing a microphone, so let's listen in to what's going on with the umpires.
Oh, dude, I'm good. I'm good. Marty, I'm not going to put you out here. I'm fine. Marty, I'm not going to put you out here. All right, let's go. Let's go. I can finish this up. Let's go.
Timmy, I'm serious.
Marty,
I can do it. I can do it. It's not. I just needed a second. My left eye was a little. Now it's better. I'm back in. I'm back focused.
I would not let him stay.
I'm not. I'm going on his. Marty, I'm not. I'm going on his recommendation. All right.
Timmy,
I'm not going to put you out, Marty.
I can see that.
So just like a ball player who wants to stay in, Marty Foster, a gamer, arguing to stay in this one.
I thought it ticked off of LaDuca's glove, but I don't think so. It just went straight to his mask. And it took him a second before it really took effect, because he took out a ball and gave it to LaDuca. And LaDuca's looking in his eyes. He can see something is wrong.
So the umpires have left the field because Tim McClellan has to go in now and put on the umpire's equipment. So suddenly the game has ground to a halt. And McClellan's got to put in the shin guards and the inside chest protector. It's going to take a few minutes for him to be able to do that. So there's nothing else really to be done. But Joe, I think they have come to an understanding now of the concussions and the problems that can happen with the concussion, and evidence that maybe a concussion has been suffered.
And he's still behind.
And
the
Marty
plate.
Foster is heading back out behind the plate. And so hopefully this means something good, that Marty Foster's gotten further tests and passed them.
Well, he was saying that he just lost a little focus there in his left eye for a moment. And make no mistake about that, mask there is there to help you, but it doesn't absorb all the shock. It's like a helmet. When a guy gets hit with it, it absorbs some of the shock, but not all of it. And what he wants to do is, McClellan wants him to get behind LaDuca, take a couple of pitches, and make a couple of calls. Like we see a pitcher throw some extra pitches to make sure he's okay.
So Jorge Sosa back out there. And this is all under the watchful eye of Tim McClellan, the veteran umpire, the crew chief.
Well, he looks like he's got a new mask on too, John. I'm not sure, but that looks like a new one.
All right, Marty Foster gives the thumbs up. This was the foul ball. And that got him hard.
Definitely.
And he had.
Yeah, this might be the same mask. It just looked a little different from that angle.
2 balls and 1 strike to count. Sports Center right after the game. Stay tuned for that. There's a runner at first base, Cliff Floyd, with 2 down. Mark DeRosa is the hitter. And the Mets lead the Cubs 7-3. And the slider way outside. 3-1. Angel Pagan is out on deck. Jorge Sosa been used as both a starter and a reliever. And he helped them a lot as a starter. Shallow left center field. There is Milledge. And the inning is over. And now on to the 9th. The Mets bullpen needs 3 outs more to secure Tom Glavine's 300th victory. 7-3 Mets.
For over 75 years, people have saved money with Geico. Oh, sorry.
From the top.
For over 75 years.
Keep it together.
What are you doing there? Stop making me
Geico,
laugh.
saving people money for over 75 years.
Fred Glavine, a great Braves fan when they were the Boston Braves. Growing up and living in the Boston area, raising a family. And he especially loved Warren Spahn, the great left-hander of the Braves. He and his wife Mildred here watching their son Tom Glavine, along with Tom's wife Chris. There she is in the middle. Their children, which include Amber, Jonathan, Peyton, and Mason, and also many others that Tom has invited to come here to be part of it. And they need 3 outs more from that bullpen for Tom Glavine to have achieved really the Everest of a major league pitcher, 300 wins. Now, between innings, the umpires once again were gathered along with the Cubs trainer. And apparently he is okay and back behind the plate again. Ryan Dempster into pitch, and Jose Reyes blasts one to center, and it's up against the ivy. Pagan could not handle it. Now Reyes streaking around the bases. He'll stop at third with a triple. Reyes' 11th triple of the year.
Some people say a triple's the most exciting play in the game, but not when Reyes hits it, because it's almost automatic when the ball gets past the outfielder. There's not a play at third when he hits it over their heads.
Yeah, he was taking 4 bases, I think.
Yeah, a lot of times there's a play on the guy for a triple, but when he hits it, he just strolls into third base.
Here is Ruben Gotay. The infield comes in. It's a double switch, by the way, by the Cubs as Ryan Dempster throws ball 1 inside. Matt Merton also has come into the game in right field. And he is in the 9th spot of the order. DeRosa is out after making the final out of the 8th inning. And ball 2. Now, Dempster, Lou Piniella told me he was almost surely not going to be the closer tonight.
Well, he's not.
This is not the closer spot. Yeah, because he's been lit up by the Mets a couple of times this year, including Friday.
Well, I think he's trying to let him get some confidence in case, the next time he comes up, he's still going to use him as his closer.
There's Matt Merton now in right field. Billy Wagner is up in the Mets bullpen, so one way or the other, looks like we'll see him in the last of the ninth. That's right back to Dempster, and he throws out Gochild. Kind of a low throw, but the soft hands of Derek Lee saved that one. One away. There's Billy Wagner in the bullpen. Luis Castillo, by the way, remember we saw him lead the game, and we're told that he was suffering from heat exhaustion.
Well, I can understand that because it was very humid on the field tonight.
Here's David Wright, runner at third. The infield stays in. Wright trying to drive in his colleague, Jose Reyes. Reyes has had 3 hits tonight and a steal. The slider misses very high for ball 1. The Cubs in their half of the ninth inning will be scheduled to have Angel Pagan, Jason Kendall, and Matt Merton up, perhaps against Billy Wagner.
Well, I think Billy Wagner will come in if they don't blow the game open, because as I said, I don't think Willie's going to let anything. He's going to pull out all stops to make sure that Glavine gets his 300th win tonight. Willie Randolph reminds me a lot of Sparky Anderson in that he's a people person. He manages people, not necessarily just the game. And he knows how important it is for the Mets to get Tom Glavine his 300th victory tonight since he's had the lead. He does not want to see a recurrence of what happened last week, so he's going to bring Wagner in, even though it's not a safe situation, but he wants to get this over with.
And that's ball 4. And the Mets have a big showdown series with Atlanta, but that does not start until Tuesday.
Right.
So they've got the day off tomorrow. The Mets with 2 men on now after the walk to right. Delgado, who's driven in 3 runs, coming up. And the Mets have now put 23 men on base in this game. They lead 7-3. They've had 16 hits and have received 7 walks. A lot of RBI opportunities for a guy like Delgado. Got more here.
And he's going to get more with Castillo as long as he's healthy, because that top of the lineup now is going to be just awesome. The speed of Reyes, Castillo, Wright, all hitting in front of Delgado.
Delgado with a 1-strike count. He's had 2 doubles and a walk. He's 2 for 4. 3 batted in. Facing Dempster. Hit hard. Caught by Merton. Here comes Reyes. The throw goes back to first base, but Wright is safely back. Reyes scores, and it's the 4th RBI of the night for Carlos Delgado. 4 RBIs without hitting a home run.
Well, that was an excellent play by Mertens in right field. He had no chance of getting Reyes, so he tried to double right off first base.
Now Moises Alou. And Cubs fans who remember him fondly, he had some excellent years for the Cubs. Some of them still, when he comes to bat here at Wrigley, shout out Alou. Moises been having a lot of injury problems with the Giants the last 2 years, now with the Mets this year. But as you say, Joe, there are not many guys with a quicker bat than Moises Alou even now. That's a foul ball.
I remember years ago, Dusty Baker said the 2 best fastball hitters going was Moises Alou and Gary Sheffield. And you couldn't get a pitcher to argue with him about that.
Moises had a season here in Chicago. He had 39 home runs for the Cubs. They still had Sammy Sosa. They had Derek Lee, Ramirez. And that's it. Alou down on strikes. So they get the 1 run against Dempster. 3 outs away from Tom Glavine's 300th victory. And here comes Billy Wagner to try and wrap it up. Sunday Night Baseball from Chicago. It is 8-3. The Mets are on top here, and Tom Glavine with his wife Chris, the kids, his mom and dad, family, friends, his brothers, his sister, and Tom Glavine talked about the family and how much he wanted to have them here for this special, memorable night.
My parents obviously were a huge help for me as a kid playing ball, and they've been tremendously instrumental for me all throughout my career with encouragement and things like that. And you know, it's something that it's a great opportunity for me to be able to be at this point in my career, have the career that I've had, represent my family the way that I have, you know, and make them proud of me. And to have the opportunity to win 300 games at this level and do it in front of your mom and dad, it's a pretty special feeling. I don't know exactly what it's going to feel like, assuming I finally get there, but I can tell you that the opportunity so far has been fun.
Tom Glavine still hanging out of the dugout as that 300th win now is in the strong left arm of Billy Wagner. And Angel Pagan, then Jason Kendall, Matt Merton are the three hitters due up here for the Cubs, and Glavine wants to see it firsthand. Tom Glavine, who was a second-round draft choice for the Braves in 1984. He was the 47th player chosen in that draft. That's in there for a strike. In that same draft, the 31st player chosen was Greg Maddux by the Cubs. Pretty good draft right there. Into right field. Sean Green, one away. Right after the game, we'll attempt to chat with Tom Glavine. Greg Maddux 3 years ago won his 300th in San Francisco. 4 years ago, Roger Clemens became a 300 game winner. And Tom Glavine now 2 outs away. It's Billy Wagner, who said he very much wanted to be part of it. He could hardly be different from Tom Glavine, though, Joe, in the way he goes about his business. Billy Wagner, who is a guy famous for bringing the heat, used to throw upwards of 100 miles an hour. That one 97, a little bit high. 1 ball, 1 strike. Tom Glavine with his 300th win would tie Early Wynn and Lefty Grove for victories. Mickey Welch from the 19th century. Old Hoss Radbourne from the 19th century in front of him. Tom Seaver at 311. Gaylord Perry 314. And remarkably, Tom Glavine, whose dad set the bar rather high early on when he kept talking about Warren Spahn. Glavine would join Spahn in that very small club. That ball is hit hard and over the head of Sean Green. Jason Kendall with his second hit, a double. What's more, it's even a smaller list of left-handers who've won 300 games in Major League history. Spahn is number 1. Then lefty Steve Carlton, Eddie Plank from the old Athletics in the early 20th century. Lefty Grove, who once went 31-4 in the midst of a real hitter's era. And now Tom Glavine, about to become the 5th left-hander in history to win 300. But it's not over yet. Matt Merton, the hitter, and a foul off to the right. And Joe, you played against a lot of those guys on that 300 game list.
Yeah, Steve Carl played against Warren Spahn. My rookie year he was right at the end of his career. And of course Roger Clemens.
So you played against Roger Clemens right about the time he was a rookie.
He was a rookie, and I was in my I guess it was my final year.
I think so, 1984. Yeah. Tom Glavine, who broke in '87, and he lost his first game. There was no evidence of the greatness to come in that first game against Houston. He got knocked out in the 4th inning, gave up 6 runs and 10 hits. The next game against Barry Bonds of the Pittsburgh Pirates, though, that was his first win. And Tom Glavine And we showed a little bit earlier. Barry Bonds was the first hitter he faced in that game in his first win, and he drilled him. I don't know if it was probably just unintentional. Burton fouls one back. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Well, Warren Spahn threw a little harder, you know, in the prime of his career than Glavine, but toward the end, he was very similar to Glavine. Moved the ball around, had a great changeup, and he had a great overhand curveball.
He had a classic motion too, his big leg kick.
Yeah.
Warren Spahn. And he pitched one of the greatest pitchers duels of all time, that 16-inning 1-0 game against Juan Marichal. Strike 3 called to Merton. 2 down. We're going to jump the gun here just a bit and tell you that our Chevrolet player of the game is Tom Glavine, who is 1 out away from his 300th win. And Chevrolet will make a $1,000 contribution to Major League Baseball's youth outreach program, reviving baseball in the inner cities. He went 6 1/3, 2 runs, 6 hits allowed, left with a 5-1 lead and a runner on. This is Mike Fontenot. It's 0-1. Fontenot entered the game in the 4th inning after Alfonso Soriano had to leave after straining his right quad muscle, leaving a dark cloud over the proceedings for the Cubs and their pennant race hopes. 0-2. And now the fans at Wrigley, who've not had a whole lot to cheer about with the Cubbies, they join the Glavine family on their feet here. And the slider fouled away. Well, they appreciate good baseball. They appreciate great players here in Chicago.
Well, they know the Cubs have no chance tonight, so pull for the good guy.
Christine Glavine, Tom's wife, and his dad right behind her, Fred Glavine. 0-2. Just off the outside. Looks like Marty Foster thought about calling that one for just a moment. One and 2. Fastball at 97 off the outside. 2-2. Glavine does not betray his emotions in public. 2-2. This should do it. Go tie. And that's 300 wins for Tom Glavine, the 23rd player in the history to do it. Only time will tell if he's the last to do it. But the night is his at Wrigley Field, Chicago. The Glavine family cheers the achievement, and what a great achievement it was. And Cubs fans are up cheering it as well.
Well, I go back to something that John Smoltz said. He said he gives himself a chance to win every game, so that's how he was able to get to 300. He didn't overpower hitters. He just stayed in the ball game, not only as a pitcher, but as a hitter and a guy that could, stay in the game late when it was a tie ball game, bunt guys over. He was able to do everything that it takes to stay in the ball game. Durability and consistency. That's what Tom Glavine's all about.
Billy Wagner just handed him the ball, the ball for the final out of the 300th win as a memento of a special occasion. On the scoreboard at Wrigley Field, the Cubs have offered congratulations. Tom Glavine, 300 game winner. Willie Randolph with a hug for Tom Glavine.
All right. Coach, thanks, buddy. Thanks for your help.
And his family out now also to share in the moment. Rick Peterson, who was so instrumental in helping Glavine's career to reach this point.
Well, he helped Glavine to change the way he pitched. I mean, he changed from being a guy that just stayed outside consistently to using both sides of the plate. And he had rarely done that early in his career before Rick Peterson convinced him that he needed to do that.
And his wife, Chris, his mom, Mildred. his dad, Fred.
See you guys in a little while. Hey! It's over with now.
Glavine children.
All right, I'll see you guys in a little while.
And here in Chicago, they offer thanks, Tom. A great career, one of the greatest the game has ever seen. It's going to happen. It has happened. Tom Glavine has won his 300th career game. He may be the last. Congratulations to him. The Mets win it 8-3. SportsCenter follows, and included on SportsCenter, we're hoping to have an interview for you with Tom Glavine. Now for Joe Morgan and Peter Gammons, this is John Miller. Thanks for tuning in, and we wish you good night from Wrigley Field, Chicago. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Tom Glavine, 300 game winner.